As he stepped out of the elevator, Yi Xin felt refreshed. Even the air seemed better than usual. From beginning to end, he hadn't mentioned where his money came from. He didn't care what the Lin Qingxue family thought. As long as he had money, this family would regret their actions. As for how he got the money, that was secondary. Indeed, as Xin had expected, at Lin Qingxue's home, the whole family had fallen into silence. Bai Lianxiang covered her face, her expression extremely ugly. He actually dared to hit me. He actually dared to hit me. This can't be the end of it. Absolutely not. In her heart, Xin was still the same person she could order around. This impression hadn't changed because of the slap. Second sister, we asked Xin for a favor. Your attitude was too bad. He's not Qingxue's husband anymore, Bai Bo said, somewhat reproachfully. With this scene, Xin would probably be even less willing to agree to his request. If that happened, he would have to change logistics companies and the price would increase significantly, which would be a huge loss for his company. Bai Lianxiang said through gritted teeth. Who does he think he is? I don't know which rich woman would actually take a liking to him. That woman must be incredibly unlucky. Lin Qingxue helped her up. At this moment, Lin Qingxue had mixed feelings. She thought of the time Xin went to Xin High Bank on the day they got divorced, and the time he went to the VIP lounge. And then Xin had gotten together with Zhou Qianqian and had been seen at the Wanhao Hotel. Then, he suddenly transformed and became the CEO of the Shengshu company. Before, she had always thought that this was just a coincidence, but now, she felt that it might not be. After all, the change in Xin's personality had been very obvious. She felt that if it were the Xin of the past, even if they were divorced, he wouldn't have been able to hold his head high in front of them, let alone yell at them, or even slap Bai Lianxiang. Of course, there was no point in thinking about all this now. They were already divorced, and Xin's words earlier hadn't left any room for negotiation. Meanwhile, Xin hummed a song as he walked out of the building. Ding, ding, ding. At that moment, his phone suddenly rang. Xin picked it up and saw that it was a strange phone number. He raised the phone to his ear. On the other end, a playful voice said, "Guess who this is?" Xin said speechlessly, "It's Miss Zhang Wanwan, right? That's no fun. You guessed it right away." Zhang Wanwan pouted. "Come out and play." Xin was a little speechless. He knew what Zhang Wanwan was thinking. This woman was just too curious. She was very curious about why Jiang Zhenan was so submissive towards him. Moreover, her personality had changed so much after learning about him. The first time he saw her, she was like a goddess. But after interacting with her in private, especially after she got drunk, "Big sister, don't you work?" Xin said, exasperated. "Your father only has one daughter. You need to study management properly. Otherwise, no one will take over his company in the future. It's not your problem. I'm taking you to see a beautiful woman." Zhang Wanwan grinned. "A beautiful woman?" Xin's eyes lit up. "It's not important whether she's beautiful or not. The most important thing is that I want to go out and play. Send me the address." Tisk. Zhang Wanwan made a tisk sound and hung up the phone, immediately sending Xin a message. After receiving the message, Xin had a look of anticipation on his face as he headed outside. Of course, another reason why he was willing to go was to ensure Zhang Wanwan's safety. After all, she was a target of the Red Lotus right now. The Red Lotus organization was quite unique. They were an assassin organization, and they had 3 of the top 10 assassins on the underground assassin rankings. This was already a very strong presence. However, they never took assassination contracts. The work of this organization was to use all sorts of methods, coercion, or negotiation to get some of the world's rich people to join their organization. Xin left his building and chose to take the subway to his destination. After taking only a few steps towards the subway station, Xin's lips curved into a smile. He turned around as if by accident and looked behind him. Behind him, there were 2 young men following him. Xin could probably guess who they were. It was either Han Shua's people or Chen Fan's people. The only people he had offended right now were these 2, who would do this kind of thing. He didn't pay too much attention to it and took the subway to his destination. His destination was a very tall office building. When Xin arrived, he raised his head and saw 4 big words at the top. Dingxing Group. Xin was stunned. Wasn't the Dingxing Group Jiang Zhenan's company? It turned out that Zhang Wanwan was asking him to come play at their company. He had the urge to turn around and run. At that moment, he suddenly noticed that there was a large group of people in front of the office building, arranging something. There were already a lot of onlookers at the entrance. "Oh, a proposal scene," Exin said, surprised. Indeed, based on the scene, it was clearly a large-scale proposal scene. There was a sports car parked in an open space. The sports car was covered with flowers, and there was a large bouquet of countless roses in front of it. There were two lines of people standing on the side, holding balloons in their hands. There was a heart made of candles in front of them, and there was a large speaker next to them. Exin curiously walked closer. At that moment, his phone rang. He picked it up and saw that it was a call from Jiang Wanwan. He answered the phone and said, "Hello. Hello. You haven't arrived yet," Jiang Wanwan said through the phone. "I have arrived. You asked me to come to your company to play? Are you kidding me?" Exin said speechlessly, "But it's not a loss. There's someone proposing on the ground floor." "Okay, I'll come down to pick you up," Jiang Wanwan said. After hanging up, Exin edged closer to the crowd. After 2 or 3 minutes, the speaker next to him suddenly started playing music. "The cafe's on the left bank of the Seine. I have a cup in my hand, tasting your beauty. Dear, I fell in love with you from that day on. Happiness comes so easily." The sound echoed throughout the office building, and more people gathered at the entrance. "Whoa, this is a big spectacle. He's really rich," Exin thought in amazement. Soon, a girl was suddenly pushed out at the entrance. Exin's heart moved. The female lead is coming out. However, when he looked over, he was immediately stunned. The person being pushed out was actually Jiang Wanwan. "What's going on?" Exin thought in surprise. Jiang Wanwan's face was a little red. She seemed a little embarrassed to be watched by so many people. Unlike when she was facing Exin, she was just like how Exin had seen her for the first time at the Wanhao Hotel. Her expression seemed a little cold. At the same time, her eyes were looking around, as if she was looking for something. Interesting. I'll record a video of her." Exin pulled out his phone and started recording. He squeezed to the front of the crowd, holding up his phone as he joined the crowd in cheering them on. Soon, Jiang Wanwan saw Exin. When she saw Exin holding his phone and filming her with an excited expression, she couldn't help but roll her eyes. At that moment, the car door suddenly opened. A handsome young man wearing sunglasses and holding a bouquet of roses that looked expensive stepped out of the car, smiling. After he got out of the car, 7 or 8 young men in suits immediately followed behind him. The people standing on both sides released their balloons into the air at the same time. The young man was holding a microphone and began singing along with the music. It had to be said that the scene looked very romantic. This man was tall, handsome, and clearly, he was rich. Most women would definitely not refuse a proposal like this. After finishing the song, the man walked up to Jiang Wanwan. Jiang Wanwan's face had already turned red because of this scene. She glared at him and said, "Lan Xing, what are you doing? Aren't you embarrassed?" Lan Xing ignored her. He held the bouquet of roses, then knelt on one knee and raised the roses as he said, "Be my girlfriend." The moment he knelt down, the group behind him all knelt down at the same time, placing their hands together in a prayer-like position. Exin looked at it and was speechless. He actually found someone familiar in the kneeling crowd. The bruised and battered Chin fan. "Agree, agree, agree. Be my girlfriend." At this moment, Lan Xing seemed to become excited and shouted loudly, "No!" Among the cheers, Jiang Wanwan's cold voice rang out. The cheers immediately fell silent. Everyone was looking at Jiang Wanwan strangely, especially the girls who were watching. They wanted to run over and stand in Jiang Wanwan's position. "Why?" Lan Xing said, frowning. "I've been pursuing you for 5 years." Jiang Wanwan said calmly, "I already have a boyfriend, so please don't bother me anymore." "I don't believe it," Lan Xing said dismissively. "Any man who has approached you has been dealt with by me. How could you have a boyfriend?" Exin was surprised. This guy was a domineering CEO. Jiang Wanwan gave him a cold look and said, "He's right here." "What?" Lan Xing's eyes flashed with a cold light. Then he laughed. "Who are you kidding?" At that moment, Jiang Wanwan walked down the steps and walked step by step toward Exin, who was holding up his phone and filming her. Then, she turned around and looked at Lan Xing and said, "It's him." At that moment, everyone in the scene all turned their eyes towards him. Exin was stunned. He held up his phone and looked at Jiang Wanwan. At this moment, he understood why Jiang Wanwan had asked him to come. She hadn't called him to come out and play at all. She was completely using him as a gun. Clearly, this proposal had been planned for a long time. Jiang Wanwan had probably known about it upstairs a long time ago. Then, she had called Yi Xian, asking him to be her stand-in. Yi Xian cursed in his heart and wanted to sneak away. Everyone was looking at him. Chen Fan on the ground was also watching everything. When he saw Yi Xian, he was slightly stunned. Why is this guy everywhere? Isn't he Zhou Qianqian's boyfriend? Immediately after, his eyes lit up slightly. Then it looks like I guessed correctly. He is the boyfriend that Zhou Qianqian hired. But yesterday at the bar, why was Tao Dingyun so submissive to him? What is his relationship with Jiang Zhenan? For a moment, many thoughts flashed through his mind, but he didn't say a word. He could use Lan Xing to teach him a lesson. On the other side, Jiang Wanwan directly hooked her arm around Yi Xian's. Yi Xian wanted to break free and run, but Jiang Wanwan held on tightly. At the same time, she whispered, "You've already helped Sister Qianqian, so you have to help me. Help you my ass." Yi Xian scoffed. When Lan Xing saw Jiang Wanwan linking arms with Yi Xian, his face turned green. He stood up with a dark expression, looking at Yi Xian. Yi Xian coughed and said, "I'm not her boyfriend. Don't misunderstand. I have nothing to do with her." However, it was clear that Lan Xing hadn't listened. He glared at Yi Xian, his eyes seeming to spew fire. "Kid, that's great. You even dare touch my woman. Just you wait." Lan Xing directly threatened him. "Who is your woman? Watch your mouth." Jiang Wanwan glared at him coldly. Then, she looked at Yi Xian. "Honey, let's go to the office. I brought you a love-filled lunch." The last sentence was so nauseating that Yi Xian got goosebumps all over his body. At the same time, Lan Xing's eyes almost popped out. He had pursued Jiang Wanwan for so many years. Jiang Wanwan had never spoken to him in that tone of voice. He was jealous and angry. "You motherfucker," he said through gritted teeth, waving his hand at the same time. In the next moment, several people behind him surrounded them. Jiang Wanwan's eyes turned cold. "Lan Xing, are you planning to attack someone in front of our company? As long as this guy breaks up with you right now, I'll guarantee that he'll leave safely." Lan Xing said angrily. Yi Xian was speechless. This guy was a complete idiot. He had already explained it, but he hadn't listened to a word. "What are you all surrounding them for? Do you not want to work anymore?" At this moment, a voice that was somewhat authoritative rang out. Jiang Zhenan walked out from the entrance of the office building, wearing a suit. He frowned and looked at Lan Xing. "Lan Xing, are you running wild in our territory?" Lan Xing gritted his teeth and looked at Jiang Zhenan. "Uncle Jiang, you said that I could come to pursue Wanwan openly, so I came. But Wanwan said that she has a boyfriend. Look at him. Does this kind of person deserve Wanwan?" Jiang Zhenan was stunned for a moment. Then, he looked at Jiang Wanwan. Yi Xian helplessly shrugged at him. However, Jiang Zhenan's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. And then he looked at Lan Xing and said, "I said that anyone could come pursue Wanwan, but that doesn't include you. You should get lost now, or else I'll call security to kick you out." "Uncle Jiang." Lan Xing's expression changed slightly. "Who is your uncle? Get lost," Jiang Zhenan said. Then, he looked at the people who were watching and scolded. "What are you still doing here? Do you not want to work anymore?" A large group of people immediately dispersed. Jiang Zhenan then said, "Didn't you see? Wanwan already has a boyfriend. Don't come looking for her again. Wanwan, come upstairs with me." The smile on Jiang Wanwan's face flashed and disappeared. She continued to act cold as she linked arms with Yi Xian and walked towards the office building. Yi Xian was speechless. It looked like he had no choice but to act as this gun. This Lan Xing didn't have a brain. Even if he explained, he probably wouldn't believe him. So, he simply didn't bother to explain. Lan Xing naturally wouldn't dare to act wild in front of Jiang Zhenan. But as Yi Xian walked past him, he said with a dark face, "You're done for." Yi Xian shrugged indifferently and followed Jiang Wanwan into the office building. In the office building lobby, Jiang Zhenan looked at the two and said, "Ahem, I didn't expect you two to have confirmed your relationship so quickly." Jiang Wanwan's face turned slightly red. She was about to explain when Jiang Zhenan said, "Yi Xian, don't worry. I'm very satisfied with you. I don't have any complaints. Why don't you find some time these next few days to get your marriage certificate? You can have your wedding banquet while you're at it." Yi Xin's lips twitched a few times. Just how much did Jiang Jinan want to marry his daughter off? Dad! Jiang Wanwan's face turned completely red. She quickly let go of Yi Xin's arm and said, "What are you talking about? I just saw Lan Xing running over to bother me, so I asked Yi Xin to help me deal with him." "Not asked, tricked," Yi Xin said speechlessly. Jiang Jinan was stunned for a moment. Then he shook his head and said, I'm really old. I don't understand the world of you young people. I don't understand. You two go and chat. I'll go first." With that, he looked at the two meaningfully and turned to leave. "Thank you," Jiang Wanwan said to Yi Xin. "We're even now. You got me into so much trouble." "And we're even?" Yi Xin said speechlessly. "You don't know how terrible this Lan Xing is. I met him in university. Whenever there was a guy who got close to me, he would threaten or beat him. That's why I don't have many male friends now." Jiang Wanwan said, "When I saw him coming today, I could only think of you." As she spoke, she looked at Yi Xin and scoffed. "Also, Xiaowei told me that you ran away yesterday when someone tried to assassinate me. You owe me a favor, so we're even today." Yi Xin smiled wryly. He was naturally lazy, so he couldn't be bothered to explain anything to Jiang Wanwan. He shrugged and said, "Whatever. If there's nothing else, I'll go first." "Are you sure you want to leave? Lan Xing and the others are still outside," Jiang Wanwan said. Yi Xin frowned. "Then forget it. I'll sit here for a bit before I leave." "Umph. You're really a coward. No wonder you ran away yesterday. I really don't know why my dad is so polite to someone like you." Jiang Wanwan looked at him, a strange expression on her face. "Forget it. No matter what, you still helped me. I still have to thank you. I'll treat you to dinner tonight, and I'll take you to see a beautiful woman who is as pretty as me." Yi Xin naturally didn't believe her nonsense anymore, but in order to help protect Jiang Wanwan with Chichuyu, he still agreed. "Okay, then come with me to my office. Wait for a bit." As she spoke, Jiang Wanwan turned her head. At this moment, outside, Lan Xing and his group left with dark faces. As for the entrance, which was covered in flowers, they naturally didn't clean it up. The group found a bar, called some girls who worked as hostesses, and started drinking at the bar in the middle of the afternoon. Lan Xing sat there, his right arm around a sexy woman. His face was dark. At this moment, Chen Fan approached him and said, "Brother Xing, don't be angry. That Yi Xin is just a loser." "Yi Xin? Are you talking about that guy next to Wanwan? Do you know him?" Lan Xing asked, surprised, as he looked at Chen Fan. "Yes." Chen Fan politely lit a cigarette for Lan Xing. "He's the ex-husband of Han Shua's current girlfriend. He was a construction worker before, but then he somehow pretended to be Zhou Qianqian's boyfriend and attended the gathering that old man Jiang held a few days ago. At the gathering, it seemed that old man Jiang knew him." Lan Xing's eyes moved. "You were kicked out of the gathering by old man Jiang because of him?" "Yes. Old man Jiang didn't invite you, which means he has a little bit of a prejudice against you." Chen Fan quickly said, "Yesterday, I was planning to teach him a lesson at Tao Dingyun's bar, but old man Jiang called Tao Dingyun, saying that Yi Xin was his friend. That's why I got beaten up by Tao Dingyun. However, Tao Dingyun was afraid of old man Jiang. You don't have to be afraid. So, he's someone with no background at all, right?" A sinister look flashed in Lan Xing's eyes. Then, he squeezed the thigh of the girl in his arms forcefully. At 4:00 p.m., Jiang Wanwan left the office early with Yi Xin. She didn't care that it wasn't time for work to end yet. After all, this was her own company. The two of them drove to the airport. At the airport exit, Jiang Wanwan was standing there with an excited look on her face. She said to Yi Xin, who was next to her, "Don't worry. You definitely won't be disappointed. My senior was known as one of the two school flowers of Linhai University along with me." Yi Xin's heart moved. "You went to Linhai University? Did you go there as well?" Jiang Wanwan asked, surprised. "That can't be right. Those who graduated from Linhai University wouldn't become a construction worker." Yi Xin's mouth twitched. He didn't explain too much. Linhai was just his hometown. Not long after, people began walking out of the exit one by one. Jiang Wanwan waved to one of them. At that moment, Yi Xin's heart suddenly moved. Then, he quickly locked his eyes on one person. It was a woman wearing a red dress. As she came out of the exit, she attracted the attention of countless men. She was wearing sunglasses and was over 1.7 meters tall. Her sexy figure was clearly outlined by the tight red dress. She was simply a beauty. She seemed to be used to these gazes and didn't care at all. She dragged her suitcase and passed through the crowd. The corners of Yi Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. It seems that Yi Sun's death has made that old man He Lantian unable to sit still. Even the red rose has come to Jiang City. Yi Xian, what are you looking at? Come on, let me introduce you, Jiang Wanwan said. Yi Xian withdrew his gaze and turned around. At this moment, 3 people were standing in front of him. 2 women and 1 man. When Yi Xian's eyes landed on them, their eyes also saw Yi Xian. Both sides' expressions changed slightly. Immediately afterward, the 3 of them said at the same time, "It's you." At the airport exit, 3 people looked at Yi Xian with different expressions. The man's face was tinged with sarcasm, a kind of disdain. Beside him stood a capable-looking woman in long boots. Her expression was not pleasant, and she seemed angry. The other woman had long, loose hair and wore a white dress. Her beautiful face was tinged with coldness, and the look she had at Yi Xian was 3 parts complex, 3 parts resentment, and 4 parts astonishment. "Senior, do you know Yi Xian?" Zhang Wanwan asked, surprised. Bai Yao didn't speak, but the man next to her said sarcastically, "Of course she knows him. This is the young master of the Yi family in Linhai City." Zhang Wanwan looked at Yi Xian in surprise. The Yi family of Linhai was the most prestigious family in China. If Yi Xian was a member of the Yi family of Linhai City, it made sense why her father had been so polite to him. But she couldn't understand. She had asked someone to investigate Yi Xian's past, and before that, Yi Xian was just an ordinary construction worker. Did a member of the Yi family need to work at a construction site? Was he experiencing life or something? At this time, the man spoke again. 9 years ago, he was a prominent figure in Linhai City. As for his reputation, Yi Xian frowned. This matter was related to why he had entered the night watch. Yi Xian came from the Yi family of Linhai City, but his family was only a collateral branch of the Yi family. Of course, under the large tree of the Yi family, his family was still considered wealthy. Moreover, Yi Xian's grades were excellent back then, and he was highly valued by the elders of his family. However, when Yi Xian was 18 years old, an accident happened. Because of that accident, Yi Xian was placed on the pillar of shame and even faced imprisonment. At that critical moment, he had been coaxed by an old man to go to the night watch. But in the eyes of Linhai City and the Yi family, Yi Xian had already been imprisoned. Yi Xian knew 2 of the 3 people in front of him. Bai Yao was his classmate for 6 years in junior and senior high school. They had also gone to the same university, but Yi Xian had dropped out shortly after starting his studies. The man was someone he had met in college. His name was Zhou Rui, and he was Bai Yao's obsessed pursuer. During their school days, he couldn't stand Yi Xian because Bai Yao was close to him. During college, he even asked people to bully Yi Xian. Yi Xian had not yet joined the night watch then, and he had not learned martial arts. One fist was no match for many hands. Bai Yao had not seemed interested in Zhou Rui at that time. Yi Xian had not expected that the 2 of them would appear in Jiang City together after 9 years. And as for Bai Yao, the young Yi Xian had secretly had feelings for her. After all, she was very beautiful, and they had known each other since junior high. However, Yi Xian had never revealed his feelings. Bai Yao came from a very good background, and she herself was very proud. It was by chance that Yi Xian was able to get close to her at the time. Until Yi Xian had his accident and disappeared from Linhai, everyone thought he had been imprisoned. After a brief moment of surprise, Yi Xian's expression returned to calm. Zhang Wanwan asked curiously, "A prominent figure? What kind of prominence?" "The Yi family is a prominent family." As for Yi Xian, he was imprisoned for committing a crime, which made the Yi family lose all face and a large sum of money. Yi Xian's family was removed from the Yi family tree, Zhou Rui said with a sneer. "Am I right, rapist?" As soon as those 3 words came out, Zhang Wanwan was stunned. Bai Yao's expression became even more complicated. Yi Xian frowned. He ignored Zhou Rui's words and glanced at Bai Yao. He said calmly, "I was framed." Bai Yao's expression did not change. She shook her head. "It's in the past. I don't care anymore." Yi Xian nodded. One explanation was enough. It didn't matter whether Bai Yao believed him or not. 9 years had passed, and that little bit of affection had long been buried deep in his heart. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little awkward, Jiang Wanwan coughed and said, "Let's go first. The car is parked outside." Bai Yao nodded and walked toward the airport exit. After taking a couple of steps, she suddenly stopped. She said, "Yi Xian, we're all seniors who want to catch up with Bai Yao. You don't need to come with us?" Jiang Wanwan frowned, but didn't say anything. Yi Xian shrugged, not caring. Zhou Rui looked at Yi Xian with a smug smile. "Yao Yao is right. Your current clothes don't really suit us," Zhou Rui said with a sneer. Bai Yao didn't even turn around. After saying that, she walked outside. Jiang Wanwan smiled apologetically at Yi Xian and followed her out. Zhou Rui stayed behind. Looking at Yi Xian, he sneered, "I thought you would spend the rest of your life in prison. I didn't expect you to come out in only 9 years. Let me tell you, Bai Yao and I are going to get married. But it's pointless to tell you. You're not in the same world as us anymore." After saying that, he gave Yi Xian a disdainful look and ran out. Watching their backs, Yi Xian touched his nose. Indeed, we're not in the same world. Whether it was the Yi family, the Bai family, or even Zhou Rui's family, they were no longer important to Yi Xian. After joining the night watch, he had stayed there for 6 years. At that time, his superiors had told him that as long as he completed his mission in Jiang City, he could return to Linhai. But when he had arrived in Jiang City, he had been injured and lost his memory. 3 years had passed in the blink of an eye. "After things here are finished, I have to go back. There are some things that really need to be settled," Yi Xian said, touching his nose. "And it's been 9 years since I saw my parents." After speaking, he turned around, looked at the map, and walked toward the subway station. After buying a card, he walked into the subway. There were not many people in the subway car, and he randomly found a seat. After a moment, his eyes suddenly narrowed slightly. In his eyes, a fiery red figure walked in from the subway entrance. The moment she walked into the subway, she attracted the attention of many people on the train. Yi Xian also looked over. A woman in a red dress with a hot figure was wearing sunglasses and pulling a suitcase as she entered the carriage. It was Red Rose. "She's actually taking the subway." Yi Xian was a little surprised. She was a top assassin who had countless wealth. He never expected that she would choose to take the subway. Red Rose looked around, then turned slightly and walked to the empty seat next to Yi Xian and sat down. Immediately, many envious eyes were cast in Yi Xian's direction, especially the man sitting across from Yi Xian with glasses and a receding hairline. He looked at Red Rose, swallowed, and licked his lips. He looked like a dirty old man. Smelling the faint scent of roses, Yi Xian was quite comfortable. He pulled out his phone and started playing games. "Handsome guy, are you from Jiang City?" At this time, Red Rose used her slender, white fingers to point at Yi Xian's shoulder. Yi Xian looked up at her. She had already taken off her sunglasses, revealing a perfect face without any flaws. I guess so." Yi Xian coughed. Red Rose thought that Yi Xian was a little nervous because she was too beautiful. Seeing Yi Xian look over, she smiled. "Well, this is my first time in Jiang City. I don't know what fun things there are to do in Jiang City. Can you recommend something? Although there are some things online, I feel like a recommendation from a local would be better," Red Rose said. Yi Xian pondered, pretending not to know her. He eagerly introduced things, saying, "Jiang City is a tourist city, and there are many sights. If you come to Jiang City, the White Elephant Tower is a must-see. The night view is beautiful, and it's close to the river with its beautiful scenery." Yi Xian gave her an honest introduction. After chatting for a while, Red Rose suddenly said, "You seem to know quite a lot about it. Why don't I hire you to be my guide?" As she spoke, she smiled again. "You wouldn't refuse, would you?" Yi Xian's eyebrows twitched slightly, and he looked at Red Rose and said, "Being a guide isn't a problem, but do you have money?" Red Rose was slightly stunned. She had thought that if she took the initiative to invite Yi Xian to be her guide, Yi Xian should have agreed without a second thought. But she had never expected that Yi Xian would actually ask her for money. "Money, I can have, but isn't it better if I make it up to you with something else?" Her words were filled with endless temptation. Any man who heard that would probably have a reaction. Yi Xian also couldn't help but swallow. At the same time, the information about Red Rose appeared in his mind. Red Rose, 7th on the City of Sin's assassin list and one of Red Lotus' top assassins. She became famous after assassinating a chieftain. Her strength was roughly between numbers 15 and 30 of the Night Watch. Her private life was a bit chaotic, and she was keen on flirting with young, strong men. Obviously, Yi Xan had been targeted by her. He had become her prey. Seeing Yi Xan's reaction, Red Rose's lips curled up slightly. She was clearly very satisfied with his reaction. How about it? She moved closer to Yi Xan, and his arm felt her amazing elasticity. She didn't think Yi Xan would refuse her. Yi Xan sighed and said, "Okay, okay." Yi Xan's voice was tinged with anticipation. Hearing Yi Xan's words, Red Rose was slightly stunned. Then, the smile slowly disappeared from her face. Her tone was no longer as seductive as before. She said indifferently, "Forget it. I'd rather play by myself." Yi Xan was dumbfounded. What the hell was going on? At this time, Red Rose said indifferently, "Umph, a man like you is too unchallenging, boring." As she spoke, she put on her sunglasses and didn't look at Yi Xan again. Unchallenging. So, while this woman's private life was chaotic, she was also a sadist. She didn't want men she could easily flirt with. She wanted those that were a little challenging, those who would actively reject her first. Looking at Yi Xan's somewhat conflicted expression, Red Rose's lips unknowingly curled up into a sneer. She enjoyed this feeling, the thrill of tempting someone, making them think it was easy to get her, and then rejecting them. Yi Xan naturally noticed her smile and cursed inwardly. What a damned psychopath. Red Rose clearly didn't intend to pay any attention to Yi Xan. She put on her sunglasses, pulled out her phone, and started playing. Yi Xan cursed inwardly. If there weren't so many people around, just for messing with him, and because she was a member of Red Lotus, he would have killed her. At the same time, he glanced at Red Rose, sneering inwardly. "Since you've come to Jiang City, I'll make sure you fall into my hands sooner or later. And then I'll torture you mercilessly." Of course, in Red Rose's eyes, Yi Xan's look was one of desire and resentment. Her sneer became even more intense. The subway moved slowly forward. At the same time, on the other side, Jiang Wanwan was driving, taking Bai Yao and the others to dinner. Jiang Wanwan said curiously, "By the way, what's the deal with you saying Yi Xan is a rapist? He doesn't seem like one, and he even saved my dad's life. My dad is so grateful to him. 9 years ago, he asked Bai Yao's cousin to have dinner with him. Then, he drugged her and raped her." Zhou Rui said angrily. If he liked Bai Yao's cousin, he could have just pursued her. Instead, he used that underhanded method. Bai Yao is so close to her cousin. You should also stay away from him. Jiang Wanwan was surprised. She looked at Bai Yao and asked, "Sister Bai Yao, is this true?" Bai Yao hadn't said a word since getting in the car. She had been looking out the window. Hearing Jiang Wanwan's words, she nodded slightly. That kind of person should be locked up in prison for the rest of their lives. Who knows which woman he'll go after he gets out? Zhou Rui said angrily. He also knew that he couldn't show his face back in Lin Hai City. That's why he came to Jiang City after getting out of prison. By the way, Wanwan, how did you two meet? Does he work at your company? Jiang Wanwan's mood was complicated. She shook her head and said, "No, we met a bit by chance. He was working at a construction site before, doing work like moving bricks." "Moving bricks?" Zhou Rui burst out laughing. "Ha ha, that's right. After spending a few years in prison, he doesn't know anything. He can only do that kind of manual labor." Hearing this, Bai Yao slightly frowned, not knowing what she was thinking. Zhou Rui continued, "You still shouldn't associate with him. You're so beautiful. You might be his next target." On the other side, Yi Xan was a bit frustrated when he got off the subway. After that, Red Rose hadn't said a word to him. Like a proud swan, she sat there calmly with her sunglasses on. Yi Xan got off the subway. It was already past 6 in the evening. He went home, and Jiqiuyu and Ming Xiaonan had prepared dinner. After arriving home, Ming Xiaonan looked at the frustrated Yi Xan and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Yi Xan scratched his head. "Let me remind you, Red Rose has come to Jiang City." In the next moment, Jiqiuyu and Ming Xiaonan both looked up at him at the same time. Ming Xiaonan asked in surprise, "You met her?" Yi Xan nodded. Jiqiuyu snorted and said, "Every time Red Rose goes to a city, she'll seduce a young, strong man to be her partner. Looking at you, It seems like you're upset because Red Rose didn't seduce you. Those pictures of Red Rose make her look like a real beauty. Damn, she could even guess that? He said guiltily. How could that be? I only have you in my heart, Dr. Zhe. I'm upset about something else. Zhichuyu glanced at Exin, and Ming Xiaonan asked, What is it? I met my old classmates from Linhai City, Bai Yao. You should know something about my past, Exin said. Zhichuyu paused. She knew about Exin's past. Hearing this, her expression shifted. Did she say anything to you? She didn't say anything, but the dog next to her wouldn't stop yapping. Exin said helplessly. I was with Jiang Wanwan at the time, and Jiang Wanwan misunderstood as well. I guess it's not possible to appear by her side and protect her secretly. Zhichuyu pondered for a moment and didn't say anything more. She looked at Ming Xiaonan and said, Let's eat. She lowered her head and said, That injustice can't stay with you forever. Since the night watch is letting you stay here for a while, you should go back to Linhai City after things are done in Jiang City and settle things. Exin felt a warmth in his heart and said, I knew it. You still care about me. Zhichuyu didn't pay any attention to Exin. After dinner, he and Ming Xiaonan went out. Nothing happened that night. The next day, Exin slept in until past 10 o'clock. He was awakened by a phone call from He Gang. Hello? Exin answered the phone and asked, What's wrong? You need to come to the company. There's a woman who barged in. She was yelling at the company gate, saying that she's your mother-in-law, that her family owns half the company's shares, and that we should sign a contract with that by Bo's company. He Gang said, She said that she's your mother-in-law. We were too embarrassed to use force. Exin was dumbfounded. He didn't expect Bai Lianxiang to be so shameless as to go to his company and make trouble. What a shrew! Is she still making a scene? Exin asked. Lin Qian has managed to calm her down for now. She's sitting in my office. He Gang said helplessly. Exin nodded. He got out of bed, did a quick wash, and took a taxi to the company. The company seemed pretty normal, but when Exin appeared, many people were secretly looking at him with different expressions. This was actually the first time that Exin had appeared at the company as the boss. Some people even took the initiative to greet him, calling him boss. Exin smiled in acknowledgement. Soon, he arrived at He Gang's office. He Gang was standing at the door. Seeing Exin arrive, he smiled wryly and said, Your mother-in-law is no pushover. It's okay. I'll handle it. I'm sorry to have troubled you, Exin said. That trouble isn't anything. Now that I think about it, I didn't expect you to be connected to Jiang Jinan. With the business that he gave us, the company's value will surely double this year. He Gang said with a smile, not even paying attention to Bai Lianxiang in the office. Yes, he was a little envious. As the largest logistics provider in Jiang City, he had long wanted to work with Jiang Jinan's company, but he had never succeeded. But when Exin had arrived, Jiang Jinan had taken the initiative to call, giving them a tremendous amount of business. Exin laughed and said, That's just a small matter. You go ahead and get busy. I'll take care of this. Then he opened the door. Inside the room, Bai Lianxiang was sitting in He Gang's office chair with her arms akimbo. On the sofa next to her, Bai Bo and Lin Qian were sitting. Seeing Exin walk in, she glared at him and said, Exin, I've checked. This company is the common property that you and Qingxue obtained after marriage, and Qingxue owns half of the shares. So, you have to sign a cooperation agreement with my brother, and we want to share the profits. Her tone was very strong. Looking at Exin, she said, Also, you slapped me yesterday. You need to compensate me for that. Bai Bo also said, Yeah, Exin, you can't be such a turncoat. You were married to Qingxue for 3 years, and her father saved your life. Although you're divorced, I think you should take care of us. I've encountered shameless people before, but I've never seen such a shameless family as you. Exin said with a smile, looking at Bai Lianxiang. This company was purchased after I divorced her. It has nothing to do with Lin Qingxue, and even less to do with you. Doesn't it? If you don't give it to me today, I won't leave. I'll come to your company every day and make a scene, Bai Lianxiang said with a sneer. Exin sighed. He looked coldly at Bai Lianxiang and then said to the outside, Security. Soon, several people wearing security uniforms ran in. Bai Lianxiang glared at them and said, What are you going to do? My daughter owns half of your company's shares. It all makes sense in court. If you dare to touch me, you can forget about working here. Exin looked at her indifferently and said, Throw them out. He didn't want to waste time talking to such a shrew. Xian, you're going too far. Regardless, they saved your life, Bai Bo said quickly. Throw that person out too, Xian said, pointing to Bai Bo. Bai Bo's expression changed. They had thought that if they made a scene, Xian would take their reputation into consideration. Even if they didn't get any shares, he would probably sign the contract. They never expected that Xian wouldn't waste time talking to them at all. As he spoke, Xian's gaze slowly landed on Lin Xian. Lin Xian couldn't help but tremble slightly. Then Xian said indifferently, you can pack your things and go find another job. Our company can't afford to employ someone like you. Lin Xian's expression changed, and her beautiful face turned white. Lin Xian was very beautiful. Because of her looks, she was quite arrogant towards ordinary people. However, her background was quite ordinary. Although she wanted to hook up with a rich second generation, she was also a bit conservative deep down. She looked down on these ordinary men, but she hadn't met any rich second-generation guys. She was just a very ordinary office worker. In Jiangcheng, Shengshu Company wasn't the top company, but it was still a relatively large one. There weren't many companies with assets exceeding 100 million. The benefits at Shengshu were also quite good. Ever since Xian became the boss, she had been worried about being fired, but these days, Xian hadn't mentioned it. Yes, Xian initially didn't want to hold it against her. As long as she worked hard, he wouldn't care, since he wasn't often at the company anyway. But he knew how Bai Lianxiang and Bai Bo got into the company. It was definitely Lin Xian who brought them in. Moreover, it was highly likely that Bai Lianxiang's disturbance this time was planned by their family yesterday. Xian had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen anyone this shameless. So he really wanted to completely cut ties with this family, and there was no need for Lin Xian to stay at the company. Hearing Xian's words, Lin Xian's pretty face turned pale. Losing this job, it would be extremely difficult for her to find another job comparable to this one. Lin Xian bit her lip, then sneered. Xian, don't think you're so great just because you have some money. Who cares about this job? Han Shuo will definitely find me a job 10 times better than yours. Xian didn't answer her and turned to leave the office. In the corridor, Bai Lianxiang was still yelling. Xian, you ingrate. Everyone look, your company's boss is an ingrate. He divorced my daughter and didn't give her a penny. We saved his life. He became evil after he got rich. She was being dragged by the security guards, but her mouth was still shouting loudly. Bai Lianxiang and Bai Bo were dragged downstairs. Downstairs, many passers-by stopped to watch. Yang Chong was also in the crowd. He couldn't stand it anymore and jumped out to scold. How dare you call Xian an ingrate? It's true that Xian was saved by your husband. Your husband made him marry your daughter. Before, Xian had no memory due to his injury and didn't even know his bank card password. But to support you and your daughter, he worked almost 365 days a year on the construction site to support you. He worked like an ox for you for 3 years. But what about you? Your daughter cheated on him during their marriage, hooking up with a rich second generation, and then you immediately kicked Xian out. The house Xian worked hard to buy was also in your name, and you directly threw him out. Yang Chong cursed loudly. He didn't have a penny on him. Now he has recovered his memory and remembered that he used to be rich. He acquired this company, and then you came to ask for money. Are you shameless or not? Yang Chong glared at her. The security guards subconsciously stopped. The onlookers frowned when they heard this. What kind of family is this? She seems to be Lin Qian's aunt. I saw Lin Qian bring them in before. Lin Qian? The one from HR? She's not a good person either. She's been flirting with many people in the company, just because she's a bit pretty. This whole family is probably not good. Xian happened to come downstairs, and Lin Qian followed him with a grimace. Hearing this, her expression changed slightly. Bai Lianxiang's face didn't look good when she heard Yang Chong say this. She glared at Yang Chong and scolded. Who are you? What do you know about our family affairs? You have no right to butt in. I'm just someone who can't stand injustice. You're really shameless. Yang Chong glanced at Bai Lianxiang. Bai Lianxiang's face turned ugly at first, and then she started yelling again. Drag them out. Xian came down and said calmly. The security guards dragged the two out. As for what Bai Lianxiang was shouting, Xian didn't care. He wasn't at the company anyway, so he didn't care how these people talked about him. He looked at the onlookers around him and frowned. Disperse, everyone. Stop watching. After saying that, he looked at Lin Xian and said, "You have half an hour to pack your things and leave. By the way, go back and tell your whole family." At this point, Yi Xian's tone suddenly became cold. "My patience has reached its limit. Don't provoke me again, or I will take back that house too." Lin Xian gritted her teeth and turned towards her department. Only then did Yang Chong run over and say, "You've really had bad luck for 8 lifetimes to encounter this family." Yi Xian smiled at him and said, "Why are you here? Didn't it just have surgery? I called my sister from the countryside to come over. I feel uneasy not coming to work after taking so much money," Yang Chong said. Yi Xian pondered for a moment. In fact, he kind of wanted to bring Yang Chong back to the Night's Watch. Yang Chong's character and personality were very good. But the only problem was that Yang Chong was a little old. Beep, beep, beep. At this time, Yi Xian's phone rang. He looked at Yang Chong and said, "All right, you go get busy. I'll take this call." "Okay." After his discharge from the hospital, "I have to treat you to a meal. Yi Xian, I owe you a big favor. Even my life is not enough to repay it," Yang Chong said seriously. "Get lost. You're being so corny." Yi Xian cursed. Yang Chong chuckled and ran towards the HR department. After he left, Yi Xian picked up his phone and found that it was Jiang Wanwan calling. Yesterday, when Zhou Rui and the others chased him away, Jiang Wanwan didn't say anything. Obviously, the word rapist made her feel apprehensive at the time, but he didn't expect Jiang Wanwan to call him. Yi Xian frowned and answered the phone. "Hello. I'm sorry about yesterday. I left you alone at the airport." Jiang Wanwan apologized to Yi Xian. "It's okay." Yi Xian didn't mind too much. "Come find me. I'm at the White Elephant Tower with Senior Bai Yao." Jiang Wanwan said, "Senior Bai Yao wants to see you." Yi Xian frowned. He didn't expect Bai Yao to want to see him. He nodded and said, "All right, I'll come find you." He went out and took a taxi to the White Elephant Tower. The White Elephant Tower was a tourist attraction in Jiangsheng, located at the highest point in Jiangsheng, near the river. The scenery was excellent, and many tourists chose to stay there. Of course, the price was a bit expensive. This area was actually quite commercially developed. Soon, Yi Xian arrived at a tea house near the White Elephant Tower. He called Jiang Wanwan to confirm the room, and then he entered the tea house. In a private room of the tea house, Yi Xian slowly pushed open the door. Inside the room, the fragrance of tea filled the air. Jiang Wanwan and Bai Yao were sitting opposite each other. Seeing Yi Xian come in, Jiang Wanwan smiled and said, "Come quickly. You're in luck. You can taste Senior Bai Yao's tea art." Bai Yao sat in front of the tea set, like a classical beauty. Every movement was very elegant. Yi Xian walked into the room. Bai Yao didn't look up at him, but said to Jiang Wanwan, "Wanwan, can I talk to Yi Xian alone?" Jiang Wanwan nodded. "Then I'll wait for you outside." She glanced at Yi Xian curiously and left the room. After she left, Bai Yao looked at the seat opposite her and said, "Sit." Yi Xian nodded and sat down opposite her. Bai Yao pushed a cup of tea towards him. Yi Xian didn't say anything. He picked up the tea, drank it in one gulp, and smacked his lips. Seeing his actions, Bai Yao frowned, then shook her head. "You've really changed a lot. You used to like drinking tea and new tea art." Yi Xian scoffed in his heart. He used to like the tea ceremony because Bai Yao liked it, so he secretly learned about it. But in the world of the Night's Watch, there was no time for him to slowly enjoy tea. "It's been 9 years. It's normal to have some changes," Yi Xian smiled. Bai Yao tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, then raised her head and looked at Yi Xian for the first time. "I'm getting married. To Zhou Rui." "I know." Yi Xian nodded. "Zhou Rui already showed off to me yesterday." "I don't like him," Bai Yao said again. "But I don't like him." Bai Yao looked up at Yi Xian, her beautiful eyes still calm and serene as she spoke. Yi Xian frowned. "If you don't like him, then don't marry him." Bai Yao sighed and shook her head. "It's not that simple. My family's company is having some trouble, and it just so happens that Zhou Rui's family can help. Their condition is that I marry him. I want to refuse, but I can't. In wealthy families, such things are often involved." Yi Xian frowned and asked, "So, you want me to help you?" Bai Yao shook her head. "What can you do to help me? If you hadn't gone through what you did back then, if your grades were still good and you were valued by the Yi family, maybe you could have helped me." Yi Xian was speechless. In fact, he didn't think much of the Zhou family at all. He had a diamond card from the Xinhai Bank. During his 6 years as a night watchman, he had built up a terrifying network of contacts and had many businesses both domestically and abroad. Moreover, he had the behemoth that was the night watchman backing him. Although he hadn't returned to River City, his parents were, in fact, always well taken care of by him. Perhaps I really can help. Yi Exine rubbed his nose. Bai Yao frowned, then said, Yi Exine, you should know that I don't have many male friends, or any at all, really. You were the only one once. 9 years have passed, and I don't want to bring up what happened back then. My cousin is already married, and you've finally been released from prison. I talked to Wan last night and asked her to introduce you to her company. Try to be a good person from now on. Yi Exin chuckled wryly. Clearly, Bai Yao hadn't listened to him when he said he was framed yesterday. He pursed his lips and said, So you came to me just to say this? I told you I don't have many male friends, Bai Yao said. And it's been 9 years. I wanted to see you, to talk to you alone. Zhou Rue was there yesterday, and he would have been upset if I had said these things in front of him. Yi Xian's heart stirred slightly. He looked up at Bai Yao. 9 years had passed, and Bai Yao had aged a little, but her personality seemed unchanged. The aloofness and elegance in her bones were still there. Bai Yao saw Yi Xian looking at her, and her face flushed slightly. Do you really not want to marry Zhou Rue? Yi Xian asked again. What does it matter if I don't want to? We're already engaged, Bai Yao said. If I don't marry him, my family will suffer huge losses. They won't allow it. Yi Xian smiled faintly. I understand. Bai Yao frowned slightly when she heard Yi Xian's words, and then shook her head. She didn't think Yi Xian could do anything. She shook her head and said to the outside, Wan, come in. Jiang Wan walked in, 2 shallow dimples appearing on her face. You guys finished talking so quickly. Bai Yao nodded and stood up. We should get going. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if Zhou Rue asks about it later. Yi Xian's expression shifted slightly, and then he nodded. All right, I'll see you off. Jiang Wan paid the bill, and the 3 of them left the tea house and headed towards the parking lot next door. Not long after leaving the tea house, Yi Xian's eyebrows twitched. He felt someone following him again. After seeing Jiang Wan and the other off, Yi Xian slapped his forehead. Damn, I forgot to ask them what they're doing in River City. At the same time, 2 people approached him from behind, and one of them tapped him on the shoulder. What's up? Yi Xian asked calmly. Our brother Xing wants to see you, the person said, looking at Yi Xian. Brother Xing? Lan Xing? He remembered Jiang Wan using him as a shield. He had asked Chiyu about this Lan Xing yesterday and found that his family was also quite prominent. Zhang Jinan was the publicly known richest man in River City, but Lan Xing's family was actually not much worse off. River City was only so big, and the 2 families competed in business, so their relationship wasn't very good. As wealthy people in River City, and of similar age, Lan Xing and Jiang Wan had known each other since childhood and had mostly attended the same schools. After entering university, Lan Xing began to pursue Jiang Wan. Yes, Lan Xing also graduated from Linhai University, the top university in the country, where many wealthy people sent their children. I'm free anyway, so I might as well take care of this trouble. Yi Xian rubbed his nose and said to the 2 men, Lead the way. His words actually surprised the 2 men. They had expected Yi Xian to refuse, and then they would have threatened him and shown off their skills. However, Yi Xian agreeing saved them a lot of trouble. One of them grinned and said, Follow us. He then shoved Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled and followed them to a car. Kid, you got guts. Do you think you can have a woman like Jiang Wan? After starting the car, one of them sneered, Let me make it clear to you, she's Brother Xing's reserved wife. Yi Xian smiled and ignored him. You can still laugh. You'll be crying when you see Brother Xing, the man said with a vicious look on his face. Of course, this had no effect on Yi Xian. He was getting a free ride back to the city, which was a huge win. The car drove for about half an hour before stopping at a repair shop. Several luxury cars were parked at the entrance. After Yi Xian got out, one of the men who had been following him shoved him and said, Get in. Yi Xian walked in through the main entrance and found that it was quite large inside. It looked like a repair shop from the outside, but inside there was everything. There were tennis courts, a small basketball court, and several mezzanines. In the main hall, there were at least a dozen luxury cars. In the middle of the area, there was a large open space with several sofas. About 10 to 20 young men and women were sitting on the sofas. Exin looked over and saw several familiar faces. The most eye-catching one was, of course, Lan Xing with his blue hair. And next to him sat Zhou Rue. Yes, Exin never expected Zhou Rue to be here. Next to him was a beautiful girl in revealing clothes, and Zhou Rue had his arm around her waist. Exin frowned slightly when he saw this. Zhou Rue was also slightly surprised when he saw Exin. Besides them, there were several other familiar faces, including Chun Fan and Han Shua, whose injuries hadn't fully healed. He had seen the other men at the gathering of rich kids last time. When he entered, Lan Xing was bragging, "Brother Rue, I'm not bullshitting you. I spent a lot of money on this place. You won't find a better place for car modifications in the country. All my buddies' cars are modified here." "Brother Xing, we brought him," the two men who brought Exin said. Exin was pushed to the middle of the group. Zhou Rue looked at Exin with a half-smile and said, "So this is Wan's boyfriend you were talking about?" Lan Xing was taken aback and asked Zhou Rue, "Brother Ray, you know him?" "I do," Zhou Rue said cheerfully, "but don't worry about me. Handle it however you want. I'm not close to him. In fact, we have a bit of a grudge." Lan Xing breathed a sigh of relief. He sat there with his legs crossed, looking down at Exin, and said, "Kneel." The eyes of the 20 or so people all fell on Exin. The women were all quite beautiful and dressed provocatively. They seemed accustomed to this and watched Exin with amusement. Chun Fan and Han Shua sat there, gloating at Exin's misfortune. You think that old bastard Jiang Jinan can protect you? I'm not a coward like Tao Dingyun," Lan Xing said, his face darkening. "I told you to kneel when you speak. Can't you understand?" As he finished speaking, several people nearby took baseball bats, steel pipes, tennis rackets, and the like and took a few steps forward. Exin rubbed his nose, a faint smile on his face. His gaze slowly swept over Lan Xing, and then he moved his lips slightly and said, "Do you even deserve to bark in front of me? You think you're worthy of barking at me?" Exin smiled, looking at Lan Xing, speaking indifferently, tit for tat. For a moment, the entire factory fell silent. Everyone looked at Exin, most of them with dazed expressions. Especially those who didn't know Exin before, they were completely stunned. This place was Lan Xing's private property. These girls were often called over to play. The so-called play was just to accompany these rich second-generation heirs to drink, and of course, that included sleeping. They could get very generous tips from it. Having been here so many times, they had seen too many people brought into the factory by Lan Xing. The lighter ones left with bruises and swollen faces. The more serious ones would lie in a hospital for several months. But no matter who it was, everyone acted subserviently towards Lan Xing in this factory. Exin was the first person who dared to challenge Lan Xing in this place. After a brief moment of shock, a person carrying a baseball bat came over and said, "Kid, what the hell did you say? I'll kill you. You believe me or not?" Exin raised his eyebrows, glanced at him, pointed to his own head, and said, "Come, hit here. If you don't hit me, you're my grandson." The person's face was filled with rage. He came up with a baseball bat and said loudly, "You think I wouldn't dare?" Obviously, he had done this kind of thing many times before. "Stop. Interesting, interesting." Lan Xing clapped his hands and stood up, saying, "In Jiang City, you are the first person who dares to talk to me like this." Exin smiled at him and said, "So, people who don't know would think you're some rich second-generation heir from a wealthy family," Lan Xing said, stepping on the table in front of him. The table was full of wine. He picked up a glass, grabbed a bottle of wine, and while pouring, he walked towards Exin. "But in fact, you're just a dog who carries bricks on a construction site." As he spoke, he had already reached Exin. Holding the wine bottle, he said, "A dog like you. Even if I kill you, no one will seek justice for you. What makes you think you can be arrogant in front of me?" With that, his expression suddenly became ferocious. He splashed the wine in his left hand directly at Exin. At the same time, the thick wine bottle in his right hand smashed towards Exin's head. A trace of disdain appeared on the corner of Exin's mouth. He slightly turned his body, dodging the wine, and his hands suddenly thrust forward. Almost instantly, Lan Xing found that the wine glass and the wine bottle had suddenly left his hands. Yi Xian's body suddenly spun, and the wine glass accurately caught the spilled wine in the air, while his right hand swung high. Bang! The next moment, the wine bottle landed on Lan Xing's head. Crash! The heavy wine bottle shattered instantly. Lan Xing only felt a dizzy spell, and before he could react, Yi Xian let go of the wine bottle, and his hand directly pressed down on Lan Xing's head. Smack! He pressed Lan Xing's head down, smashing it onto the coffee table. In the horrified gazes of the crowd, he extended his foot and stepped on Lan Xing's face. At the same time, he shook the wine glass in his left hand, raised it slightly, took a sip, and said, "Good wine, can't waste it." Yes, he had caught every drop of the spilled wine, and from smashing the bottle on Lan Xing's head to stepping on his face on the table, it was all done in one smooth motion. Everyone was completely stunned. Yi Xian's move was completely beyond their imagination. They had no idea how Yi Xian did it. Losing my memory these past 3 years has softened my personality quite a bit. At the same time, Yi Xian sighed inwardly. I actually held back. If this was 3 years ago, this guy would probably be lying in the hospital for the rest of his life. Everyone was still in a daze, not even reacting to speak. It wasn't until blood started to flow from Lan Xing's head, covering his face and spreading onto the table. Along with Lan Xing's painful groans, the surrounding people finally came to their senses. Ah! Seeing the blood flowing out, the women started screaming. Zhou Rui's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at Yi Xian, a playful smile on his lips. Nearby, someone shouted, "Kid, you fucking let go. Do you think you can leave here alive?" As he spoke, a person waved a baseball bat and was about to rush over. Yi Xian sneered, and his right foot pressed slightly harder on Lan Xing's face. Ah! Lan Xing's screams became even louder. The person who had rushed forward didn't dare to continue. A trace of disdainful smile appeared on Yi Xian's lips. He then looked down at Lan Xing and said, "Oh, you're bleeding. Let me disinfect it for you." "What are you doing? Stop!" one of Lan Xing's men exclaimed in alarm. But Yi Xian obviously didn't intend to listen to him. He slowly poured the wine from the glass onto Lan Xing's head. The intense pain of the alcohol on the wound almost made Lan Xing faint. "Ah! Ah! Ah!" he screamed loudly. Everyone around was terrified, especially Han Shuo and Chen Fan. Both of them couldn't help but retreat towards the back of the sofa, their bodies trembling slightly. Too ruthless. Yi Xian was too ruthless. They had always looked down on Yi Xian before, thinking that he had no background and could be played with as they pleased. But now it seemed that the barefooted are not afraid of those who wear shoes. Yi Xian's reckless ruthlessness made their hearts tremble. If Yi Xian had treated them like this before, how painful would it have been? More than 20 people, but at this moment, not a single one dared to step forward. Zhou Rui still narrowed his eyes. He was one of the more calm ones among everyone. He crossed his legs, with a faint smile on his lips, thinking to himself, "Ruthless, yes, but so what? He's just a migrant worker now. There are many ways to deal with you." Lan Xing is really stupid. Yi Xian didn't know what he was thinking, nor did he care. He lowered his head, looked at Lan Xing, and said calmly, "Hey, I explained it to you yesterday. I have nothing to do with Jiang Wanwan. You just wouldn't listen. You called me here today, and I was planning to explain it to you properly, but you called so many people to attack me. Look at your brothers. Each one more cowardly than the last. I've already beaten you up like this, and they still don't dare to come up." The people around them twitched their mouths. "Yi Xian, do you know who I am? You really don't want to live?" Lan Xing gritted his teeth, enduring the pain, and said, "So you still plan to take revenge on me?" Yi Xian looked at him with a smile. "Consider this a lesson. I'm not one to cause trouble, but I'm not afraid of trouble coming to me either. If you insist on coming after me later, you're welcome to. It'll be good to get some exercise, otherwise it's quite boring." With that, he glanced at Zhou Rui. Zhou Rui also looked at him, with a hint of mockery. Yi Xian slowly lowered his foot, then shrugged and said, "That was a good workout. I feel much better. Now that things are settled, I'll be going. Oh, and a reminder, if anyone tries to attack me when I'm leaving, I guarantee you'll end up worse than Lan Xing." With that, he swaggered towards the exit of the factory. "Kid, you think you can leave here alive?" someone roared. Although he roared, no one rushed up. The scene just now had really scared them. Yi Xian stopped, then turned around, looked at the person who had roared with a smile, and asked, "Who was it that just roared?" To his surprise, no one dared to admit it. Exan was dumbfounded. These people, used to bullying others, were cowards when they encountered someone ruthless. Exan chuckled. Then his gaze swept to Han Shuo and Chun Fan. The two of them looked at this gaze. Their faces changed drastically, and cold sweat immediately flowed down. The two men, recalling the scene of Exan dealing with Lan Xing just now, felt their scalps tingle. It wasn't us, they quickly said. Exan grinned at them, but didn't make a move. Instead, he turned and walked outside. It wasn't until Exan's figure disappeared from the factory that Chun Fan and Han Shuo slightly relaxed. Their backs were soaked with cold sweat. The others quickly helped Lan Xing up and asked, "Lan Xing, are you okay?" Lan Xing covered his head, still feeling bursts of stinging pain. Zhou Rui stood up and said, "Hurry up and take him to the hospital to get bandaged. If he keeps bleeding like this, he might lose his life." The factory was once again thrown into chaos. An hour later, in a hospital in Jiang City, Lan Xing walked out with a bandage wrapped around his head. His expression was extremely ugly. There were only two people left in the hospital now. One was Zhou Rui, and the other was a young man of about 18 or 19. "Brother Xing, are you all right?" The young man rushed up when he saw Lan Xing come out. "A slight concussion. I'll probably need to rest for a while." Lan Xing's face was dark as he looked at Zhou Rui and said, "Brother Rui, sorry to make a fool of myself in front of you." Zhou Rui waved his hand and said, "You just underestimated Exan. He's always been strong since he was a kid, and he spent many years in prison. He still has that ruthlessness in him. It's normal for you to suffer a loss without knowing that. But why did you have to deal with someone with no background yourself?" Lan Xing's expression fluctuated, and he gritted his teeth, saying, "Those cowards." Then he snorted coldly, "This matter is definitely not over." Zhou Rui's face showed a look of satisfaction, and he said, "Coincidentally, I know some people. They specialize in crippling people, even killing them. As long as you pay them enough, they are very professional in this regard." Lan Xing's expression changed, and he said, "No need for your introduction. There are people like that in Jiang City too." Meanwhile, at a tea house by the river in Jiang City, Chun Fan and Han Shuo sat there without speaking, both very silent. They were just ordinary rich second generations. They enjoyed bullying those who were timid because they had money, but they were still far behind top-tier rich second generations like Lan Xing in Jiang City. Just now, Exan's ruthlessness had scared them. They remembered Exan's threat at the Marriott Hotel. They hadn't taken it seriously at the time, but after what happened to Lan Xing, they had to reconsider. Chun Fan looked at Han Shuo and said, "Han Shuo, this Exan is like someone who has nothing to lose. He's also particularly ruthless. From what we saw just now, he's trained. And didn't Zhou Rui say he committed a crime before and spent a few years in jail? If we provoke someone like him, and he goes crazy, even if he takes one of us down with him, we lose. He's just a bricklayer. Maybe he'll work for Jiang Jinan in the future because of their connection, but it's still not worth it." He continued, looking at Han Shuo, and he was very angry when we talked about Lin Qingxue behind her back last time. He probably still has feelings for her. Yes, in their view, Exan had endured Lin Qingxue's demands for 3 years. If it wasn't true love, he couldn't have persisted for so long. He even left with nothing when they separated. He was just a simp. Han Shuo's expression fluctuated. Then he took out his phone, dialed a number, and said, "Hello, Xinhai Bank? I'm Han Shuo. I have a silver card with you. It's like this. I bought some funds with my bank card last time. Could you please transfer all those funds back to me now?" After a brief conversation, he breathed a sigh of relief and called Lin Qingxue. Soon, Lin Qingxue answered the phone and said, "Hello, honey. You finally decided to call me? I'm at home. Where are we going on a date today?" Han Shuo said coldly, "I'm just calling to tell you. Let's break up. I'll come and take the car later. I've also transferred the funds back to my own account." "What?" Lin Qingxue's expression changed drastically. "What do you mean? What happened?" "Nothing. I just told my parents about you. They said your background is too low, and you're just after our family's money. They think we're not suitable for each other," Han Shuo said calmly. "Also, we've been together for so long, and you're still not willing to spend the night with me outside. I think you're just stringing me along." He was very experienced in breaking up. He had dated countless girlfriends over the years. Lin Qingxue was dumbfounded. She quickly said, Han Shuo, don't do this. I really love you. I'm willing to spend the night with you. How about I don't go home tonight? Han Shuo swallowed, but remembering the scene earlier, he shook his head and said, forget it. I won't waste your time anymore. Let's just break up. Leave the car in the garage. I'll come get it tomorrow. I have a spare key. With that, he hung up the phone without waiting for Lin Qingxue to speak. In the Garden District at Lin Qingxue's home, she was sitting in the living room watching TV. After the call ended, she immediately called back. Then she found that the line was always busy. Obviously, her number had been blacklisted. She sent a WeChat message, but she had also been deleted as a friend. What? Lin Qingxue's mind went blank, and she burst into tears. While Lianxiang, who was busy in the kitchen, heard the crying and rushed out, asking, Qingxue, what's wrong? Lin Qingxue looked up at Bai Lianxiang and said, Mom, Han Shuo wants to break up with me. He's already secretly transferred the funds he bought for me back to his account, and he's coming to take the car he gave me too. Bai Lianxiang was stunned for a moment. Then her expression changed, and she said, if you break up, who will give us money? Lin Qingxue was taken aback, and then she looked at Bai Lianxiang with a slightly puzzled look. Yi Xian naturally didn't know that his actions had scared Han Shuo so much that he directly chose to break up with Lin Qingxue. Of course, in Yi Xian's opinion, Han Shuo and Lin Qingxue's breakup was inevitable. Han Shuo, a playboy, was only interested in Lin Qingxue's looks and wouldn't have real feelings for her, which was evident from his previous conversation with Chen Fan. After leaving the factory, he wandered around the streets for a while. He was really bored. After walking for a while, he saw an internet cafe and decided to go in and play a few games. When he reached the counter and took out his ID card to swipe it, someone patted his shoulder and said, coward. Yi Xian turned his head and said with surprise, Qin Xiaowei, you're here to play games too? Yes, this girl was Jiang Wanwan's best friend, Qin Xiaowei. Her dress was still very bold, wearing a very short skirt and a crop top, revealing her slender waist and clearly visible abs. Qin Xiaowei ignored Yi Xian and said with a sneer, if you want to use the internet, go to another internet cafe. You're not welcome here. Yi Xian scratched his head and said, obviously, Qin Xiaowei thought he had run away and was a coward. He didn't bother to explain and said cheerfully, you can't control where I use the internet. With that, he slapped his ID card on the counter and said, cashier, 5 yuan. 5 yuan won't even get you an hour here, Qin Xiaowei said with a sneer. And you're not welcome in this internet cafe. You're really nosy, Yi Xian said speechlessly. I can use the internet wherever I want. It's none of your business. I might not be able to control you elsewhere. But here, if I say no, it's no, because I own this internet cafe. Qin Xiaowei said coldly, looking at Yi Xian, because I'm the owner of this internet cafe. Qin Xiaowei said calmly. Yi Xian was stunned. It made sense that the owner of an internet cafe would not allow him to surf the internet there. He coughed and said, all right then, I'll leave. Also, stay away from Wanwan from now on. Qin Xiaowei snorted again. If I see you near her again, I'll beat you up. Yi Xian turned his head, his eyebrows twitching slightly. In fact, Qin Xiaowei was pretty skilled. She had definitely trained since she was a child, but her skill was nothing compared to Yi Xian. He shrugged and prepared to walk toward the door. Bang! At that moment, there was a loud sound. Yi Xian was surprised and looked toward the entrance. He found that several people were coming up the stairs, and the leader was Tao Dingyun from the Mingmei bar. Beside him was a bald, middle-aged man with a bruised face and sandbags tied to his arms. Yi Xian was slightly surprised. He didn't leave. Instead, he walked to the empty seat next to him, pulled out a chair, and sat down as if he was watching a show. Seeing Yi Xian's expression, Qin Xiaowei snorted, then fearlessly looked at Tao Dingyun. Qin Xiaowei, you've got some guts, Tao Dingyun said with a sneer. The people behind him walked in, kicking aside anything they saw along the way. Clearly, they had come to cause trouble. Put your feet on the ground properly. If you want to use the internet, swipe your card. If not, get out. Qin Xiaowei didn't seem too afraid. She stood there, snorting coldly. Tao Dingyun looked at Qin Xiaowei, sneered, and asked the middle-aged man next to him, Uncle Lin, this little girl is the one, right? The bald middle-aged man nodded and said, that's right. Qin Xiaowei frowned slightly when she looked at the middle-aged man. Qin Xiaowei, I was pretty polite to you when you came to my bar, right? I even gave you discounts when I should, Tao Dingyun said with a sneer. But this person is my uncle's guest. I think you know very well who my uncle is. Uncle Lin was enjoying himself, drinking at my bar, but you gave him a black eye. What do you mean by that? If you don't give me a satisfactory explanation today, I'm afraid this internet cafe of yours will have to close, Tao Dingyun said, looking at Qin Xiaowei. Qin Xiaowei sneered. This old man was trying to touch me himself. Is it my fault? Tao Dingyun glanced at Qin Xiaowei and said with a sneer, You dress so sexily every day when you go to the bar. Isn't that so people can see you? Isn't that so you can hook up with handsome guys? If you're allowed to dress like that, why aren't others allowed to fantasize about you? If you're allowed to hook up with handsome guys, why aren't others allowed to hit on you? Beside him, Yi Xan nodded in agreement, thinking, that's a rough way of putting it, but not completely wrong. Qin Xiaowei sneered. He asked me to drink with him, and I refused. But he tried to touch me, so I retaliated. The middle-aged man stood there and snorted. Xiaoyan, you handle this yourself? Tao Dingyun looked at the middle-aged man with apprehension, then looked at Qin Xiaowei and said, I don't care why you attacked him. The fact of the matter is that you hit my Uncle Lin. This isn't over. Even old Master Jiang would have to be polite to my Uncle Lin. Yi Xian looked at the middle-aged man in surprise. It was clear that this guy was probably similar to Tao Dingyun's uncle. He had a background in the underworld. Yi Xian could feel the ruthlessness coming off of him. Yi Xian sized him up and then smirked. Qin Xiaowei frowned and said, Then what do you want to do? I'll pay compensation. Yi Xian was surprised. He didn't expect that Qin Xiaowei's personality was actually that of someone who would give in. It seemed that no one dared to provoke Tao Dingyun's uncle, Wang Zhun, in this part of Jiang City. Pay compensation? We don't care about your little bit of money, Tao Dingyun said, looking at Qin Xiaowei. Tonight, you're going to spend the night with Uncle Lin. Then, this matter will be over. Otherwise, this internet cafe of yours and your father's taekwondo school will have to close. Qin Xiaowei's face suddenly turned ugly. She bit her lip as she looked at Tao Dingyun and said, You're dreaming. Tao Dingyun frowned. Beside him, Uncle Lin pulled out a chair and sat down. He said indifferently, Xiaoyan, you have to handle this to my satisfaction. Tao Dingyun's eyes flashed with a look of ferocity. He said, Smash it up. Let's see who dares. Qin Xiaowei shouted angrily. She stepped forward and blocked the group. But she was only one person. The receptionist inside the counter and the internet cafe staff didn't dare to come out. The people who were using the internet started to leave, asking for a refund. Most of these young people knew Tao Dingyun. Several people surrounded Qin Xiaowei. She was pretty skilled, but after taking down two people, she was held back by the group. Smash it, Tao Dingyun said again. One of the men he had brought picked up a stool and smashed it against the drink machine on the counter. Crash! The drink machine was smashed to pieces and the drinks inside spilled all over the floor. The middle-aged man stood up and walked toward Qin Xiaowei. He had a lecherous smile on his face. When he arrived in front of Qin Xiaowei, he said, I really like your fiery personality. You would definitely be very energetic in bed. It's very simple. As long as you agree to spend a night with me and serve me comfortably, this matter will be over. Tao Dingyun sighed and said, Qin Xiaowei, I know you're close to Jiang Wanwan, but in this matter, even old Master Jiang can't interfere. You should just agree. You're dreaming, Qin Xiaowei said sharply. The middle-aged man licked his lips and reached out his hand. TSK big. It should feel pretty good. He lifted his hand and aimed it at Qin Xiaowei's chest. Ah! Qin Xiaowei screamed, tears flowing down her face. At this moment, she felt a sense of helplessness. It's one thing to be lecherous. After all, if both parties consent, it's not illegal. But you're forcing this girl, trying to assault her. That's going too far. At this moment, a lazy voice sounded. The middle-aged man's hand suddenly stopped in midair. Everyone looked toward the source of the voice. The one who had spoken was naturally Yi Xian. He was sitting on a sofa chair in front of a computer, watching the scene. Qin Xiaowei was stunned. She didn't expect that Yi Xian hadn't left and had actually stopped the middle-aged man's evil claw. But when she thought of Yi Xian's cowardly escape the other night, her heart grew cold. This guy was a coward. What good would he be? No, there was something he could do. If he called Wanwan, perhaps old Master Jiang could save her. She then quickly shouted, Yi Xian, get out of here. Call Wan Wan and have old Master Jiang save me. Beside him, Tao Dingyun was surprised to see Xian. He said, Brother Xian, what are you doing here? This isn't your business. Get out of here. Uncle Lin also looked at Xian and asked, Who is he? Tao Dingyun quickly explained, Uncle Lin, he seems to be a friend of old Master Jiang. I had a misunderstanding with him before. Jiang Jinan. Uncle Lin scoffed, then looked at Xian and said, Kid, even if Jiang Jinan comes, he won't be able to do anything about this. This girl attacked me first. It's understandable that I want some compensation. Get lost, or you'll be asking for trouble. Xian stood up with a smile. He winked at Qin Xiaowei, then walked step by step toward the middle-aged man. He looked at Tao Dingyun and said, I've decided to take care of this. As soon as his words fell, everyone's faces changed, including Qin Xiaowei. She had thought that after a few threats, Xian would run away without a second thought. But she never expected that Xian would stay and say that he was going to handle this. Uncle Lin's eyes narrowed. Xian clearly saw a flash of murderous intent in his eyes. Yes, Xian clearly felt the ruthlessness in his eyes. He knew very well that only those who had truly killed would reveal such a look. This guy must be a master. He was probably beaten by Qin Xiaowei yesterday because he was drunk, Xian mused. Uncle Lin glanced at Xian, didn't say anything, and sat back down, seemingly waiting for Tao Dingyun to resolve the situation. Tao Dingyun frowned, looked at Xian, and said, Xian, I call you Brother Xian purely out of respect for old Master Jiang. Don't think you're really a big shot. I've already made it clear, Uncle Lin is someone even old Master Jiang wouldn't want to offend. Qin Xiaowei is in the wrong here. In the wrong? How so? Xian shrugged and said, This bald old man wanted to touch Qin Xiaowei. Shouldn't she have the right to refuse? Should she have taken off her clothes and welcomed him instead? Tao Dingyun's expression changed again. Xian, don't push your luck. Xian walked up to them, looked up at Tao Dingyun, and said with a smile, I don't need you to give me face. Then he glanced around and said casually, That vending machine was smashed. Pay for it, and you can leave. He then looked at the two men holding Qin Xiaowei, reached out, grabbed one of their hands, and slightly exerted force. The man cried out in pain and instantly let go. After breaking free from one person, Qin Xiaowei quickly turned and kneed the other in the abdomen. The man cried out, clutching his stomach, and crouched down. Qin Xiaowei successfully broke free. Whoosh! But at this moment, a group of people suddenly surrounded them. Tao Dingyun's face turned extremely ugly as he said, Xian, do you think I really wouldn't dare to touch you? Yes, you wouldn't dare, Xian still said with a smile. Anger flashed across Tao Dingyun's face. He gritted his teeth, and his dirty dreadlocks seemed as if they would fall off from his anger. Qin Xiaowei's expression changed slightly as she looked at Xian curiously. The Xian at this moment seemed like a completely different person from the Xian of that night. This time, Xian's attitude was so tough that she couldn't believe it. Fine, fine, fine. I happened to kneel before you the other day, and I'm still quite upset about it. You want a beating? I'll give you one today, Tao Dingyun said, raising his fist and throwing it at Xian. Xian sneered and suddenly raised his hand. Slap! His speed was extremely fast. Almost in an instant, he slapped Tao Dingyun across the face. At this moment, Tao Dingyun felt a burning pain on his face, and a huge force sent him stumbling back several steps, crashing into the bar counter. Cough, cough. He coughed twice, spitting out 2 broken teeth and blood. Beat him to death. He was furious. Stop. At this moment, Uncle Lin, who had been sitting, suddenly spoke. He stood up, looked at Xian, and said, Young man, not bad skills. Xian smiled at him, then looked at Tao Dingyun and smiled again. Seeing that smile, Tao Dingyun was about to go crazy. He wanted to pin Xian to the ground and stomp on him twice. All right, I'll give you face this time. We can let it go. But I've taken a liking to this woman. I'll be staying in Jiang City for a while. Try to stay with her 24/7. Otherwise, she'll end up in my bed sooner or later, Uncle Lin said with a cold laugh. Let's go. Tao Dingyun's expression changed slightly. He looked at Xian and said, Uncle Lin, this bastard slapped me. We can't just. Uncle Lin interrupted him. Let's go. Tao Dingyun's mouth was full of blood as he glared at Yi Xian. He had suffered losses at Yi Xian's hands twice now. Once, he knelt before Yi Xian, and this time, he was slapped, lost 2 teeth, and his face was swollen. But since this middle-aged man had spoken, he had no choice but to grit his teeth. "Did I say you could leave?" Yi Xian suddenly spoke, his tone casual. Uncle Lin stopped in his tracks, turned around, and looked at Yi Xian. "Young man, I'm leaving now because you have decent skills. I'm already giving you a lot of face." Yi Xian touched his nose and said, "Also, you haven't paid yet." Uncle Lin exhaled, anger flashing in his eyes. He looked at Yi Xian and said, "Since you're familiar with Jiang Jinan, you should have heard of my name. I'm Zhou Yulin." "I don't care who you are?" Yi Xian pouted. "Are you going to pay or not?" Zhou Yulin's mouth twitched, his expression shifting between anger and hesitation. Finally, he gritted his teeth and endured it. He looked at Tao Dingyun and said, "Pay up." Tao Dingyun's expression changed slightly. He hadn't expected Zhou Yulin to back down. He looked at Yi Xian, his apprehension growing. After a moment, he gritted his teeth, scanned the QR code on the counter, and transferred 20,000 yuan to Qin Xiaowei. 20,000. Is that enough? Qin Xiaowei nodded. "It's enough. Let's go," Zhou Yulin finally said. With that, he walked out. Seeing them leave, Qin Xiaowei breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Yi Xian. "Tisk tisk." Yi Xian looked at her with a half-smile. "Just now, you wanted to kick me out and wouldn't let me use the internet here. Good thing I was a little slow to leave. Otherwise, your internet cafe would have been smashed. Helping me doesn't change the fact that you're a coward. I still remember what happened that night." Qin Xiaowei glared. "Actually, I want to deal with other experts," Yi Xian said. "Who would believe you?" Qin Xiaowei sighed in relief. "But regardless, thank you. But you've offended Tao Dingyun, and that Zhou Yulin is no good person either. This will probably bring you trouble. Don't worry about it. You should worry about yourself," Yi Xian said. "That old man probably won't let it go." Qin Xiaowei frowned. After a moment, she said again, "Anyway, thank you." "How are you going to thank me?" Yi Xian asked cheerfully. "By giving yourself to me? Or maybe that old man's suggestion wasn't bad. You could spend a night with me." Qin Xiaowei was taken aback at first. Then she looked Yi Xian up and down and said, "Sure." Yi Xian was stunned. Then Qin Xiaowei burst into laughter. "Someone like you? Trying to flirt with me?" Yi Xian was speechless. He then remembered that Qin Xiaowei was bold with her words, often frequenting bars. He had tried to flirt with her, but ended up being flirted with instead. "Damn it." Qin Xiaowei smiled and said, "It's just about noon. Let me treat you to a meal. After that, I need to find Wan. This matter, I'm afraid only Uncle Jiang can help me with." Hearing her say that, Yi Xian realized he was hungry too. He grinned and said, "Then you have to treat me to a luxurious feast." "All right," Qin Xiaowei nodded. "You can choose whatever you want to eat. I want to eat Huang'un chicken with rice." Yi Xian licked his lips. Qin Xiaowei couldn't help but roll her eyes, thinking to herself, "This guy." Qin Xiaowei gave a few instructions, deciding to temporarily close the internet cafe. After finishing, she left the internet cafe with Yi Xian. Meanwhile, on the other side, Tao Dingyun and Zhou Yulin got into a car. Tao Dingyun was still Wang his right cheek, still able to feel the burning pain. "Uncle Lin, why didn't you let me touch that kid just now? Do you know him? Does he have such a strong background? Even you are afraid of him?" Tao Dingyun asked. Zhou Yulin shook his head. "I don't even know who he is. How would I know his background? It's just..." He exhaled and continued. "I said to leave because that kid is a master, a very powerful one. If we fought, we probably wouldn't win. There are so many of us," Tao Dingyun said in disbelief. Zhou Yulin looked at him and said, "In front of a true master, numbers don't matter much. Forget it. I'll go back and ask Wang Zhun what this kid's background is. As for this woman, I must sleep with her. I like this fiery personality. Beep, beep, beep." Just then, his phone suddenly rang. He picked up his phone, glanced at it, and his expression changed slightly. He made a shushing gesture to Tao Dingyun and the others. On his phone screen, 3 words were flashing. "Red Rose." Downstairs at the internet cafe, the door was closed. Qin Xiaowei pressed a button towards a parked car, and the car lights flashed. Qin Xiaowei said, "Get in the car. To show my gratitude, I'll take you to a great meal at a really delicious place." Yi Xian's eyes lit up, and he felt a surge of anticipation. The car started and drove along. Before he knew it, Yi Xian found the surrounding buildings somewhat familiar. He opened his eyes and saw that this area was actually near the Garden District. Of course, in Jiang City, apart from eating steamed buns and porridge outside for breakfast, Yi Xian almost never went to restaurants. Usually, when Lin Qingxue and her mother went out to eat, they wouldn't bring him along, thinking he was an embarrassment. Only during the New Year, when the family ate together, would he go along. Therefore, he really didn't know what delicacies were near the Garden District. Unknowingly, the car arrived at the entrance of the Garden District, and Qin Xiaowei stopped the car. Yi Xian asked in surprise, "The place you mentioned is at the entrance of this district." "No, there's something ahead," Qin Xiaowei said. Yi Xian looked towards the entrance of the Garden District. There were already some people gathered there. At the entrance, a luxurious car was parked, but in front of the car stood a beautiful woman. She was trying her best to pull a man who was about to get into the car. They were on the road, and for a moment, the cars couldn't pass. Han Shu? Qin Xiaowei frowned. Yi Xian naturally recognized him too. That person was Han Shua, and the person pulling him was Lin Qingxue. At this moment, Lin Qingxue looked a bit disheveled. Her hair was messy, and tears were streaming down her face. This playboy must have provoked some woman again. Qin Xiaowei frowned. Yi Xian looked at all this, his heart devoid of any emotional fluctuations. Qin Xiaowei rolled down the car window, and the sounds from outside came in. Han Shua, you can't do this. You can't abandon me. Outside, Qin Xiaowei cried. You pursued me first. To be with you, I divorced Yi Xian. I have nothing now. You really can't abandon me. Hearing this, Qin Xiaowei was stunned. She looked at Yi Xian and said, "She just said Yi Xian, right?" Yi Xian didn't think there was anything to deny, so he nodded and said, "Yes, that woman is my ex-wife. We just divorced a few days ago." Qin Xiaowei was surprised. She subconsciously looked at the top of Yi Xian's head. Yi Xian said speechlessly, "Stop looking, stop looking. I was cheated on, okay? But my marriage to her was an accident. Something happened before. We were married for 3 years, and I never even touched her hand." Qin Xiaowei obviously didn't believe Yi Xian's explanation. Yi Xian didn't explain further and continued to look outside. "It's true that I pursued you first. Weren't you all high and mighty and ignoring me at first? Then that day, after I came to find you in my sports car, weren't you the one being proactive?" Han Shua said while trying to break free, "If we break up, we break up. Stop pestering me, okay? I already told you, my family doesn't agree." "No, you can't dump me," Qin Xiaowei cried, holding Han Shua's arm tightly. Han Shua gritted his teeth and said, "Weren't you with me for money? I've given you a lot of bags during this time, plus the things I gave to your mother. It must be at least 100,000. That's enough." Seeing more and more people gathering, he felt embarrassed. He pushed Lin Qingxue hard, and she lost her footing and fell to the ground. Qin Xiaowei saw this scene and frowned. This Han Shua is really a beast, probably just sleeping around and then dumping her. Then, she looked at Yi Xian and said, "Aren't you going to do something?" Yi Xian shook his head. "It has nothing to do with me anymore. This marriage was a mistake, let alone now that we're divorced." After pushing her to the ground, Han Shua adjusted his clothes and shouted to the crowd, "What are you looking at? What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a breakup scene before?" Then he glanced at Lin Qingxue, a flicker of unwillingness in his eyes. He had only taken a little advantage of Lin Qingxue and hadn't successfully slept with her. This girl is really pitiful. Yeah, these playboys nowadays, really. People around also discussed, and the security guard in the security booth said to the crowd, "Do you think she's a good person? Her ex-husband also lives in our district. He's the one who comes home every night in rags, working on a construction site. Later, she found a rich man and divorced him, even kicking him out. I saw her mother berating her ex-husband at the entrance of the district several times. This kind of person, I say, deserves it." Nearby, Yi Xian's mouth twitched. This security guard was really something. He had indeed argued with Bai Lianxiang at the entrance of the district a few times. He didn't expect the security guard to remember everything. Lin Qingxue just sat on the ground crying. And Han Shua, ignoring her, got into his car, stepped on the accelerator, and drove away. Qin Xiaowei looked at Lin Qingxue sitting on the ground and asked with a frown, "You're really not going to do anything?" Drive, let's go eat, Exin said. Qin Xiaowei frowned. She looked at Exin and said, "You're really heartless. No matter what, she's your ex-wife, isn't she? If you knew how they treated me when I was married to her, you wouldn't say that." Exin said, "Drive." Seeing Exin say this, Qin Xiaowei didn't say anything more. She started the car, and the car slowly moved forward. Because of the previous situation, there was some traffic, so the car didn't move very fast. The car slowly drove past the entrance of the district. Exin sat inside, not looking at Lin Qingxue sitting on the ground. However, Lin Qingxue, sitting on the ground, inadvertently saw Exin. She was slightly stunned. She watched Exin drive past her and also saw Qin Xiaowei driving the car. After the divorce, she thought she would live a better life, marry Han Shua, and live as a wealthy wife. And Exin would still be the Exin who worked on the construction site. But the situation after the divorce was completely different from what she imagined. Han Shua was different from what she imagined, and now she had even lost Han Shu. And Exin, he had a company and became a wealthy man. The women around him, from Zhou Qianqian to the one in the car now, each one was no less beautiful than her. She felt a huge gap in her heart. Watching the departing Exin, she got up, straightened her hair, and ran towards the district in a daze. Qin Xiaowei drove for a while and found a parking spot on the side of the road. She took Exin into a small alley next to it. "There's a place to eat in here?" Exin asked in surprise. "You're not trying to trick me, are you?" "Scram!" Qin Xiaowei scolded. "I'm not interested in married men like you. This is the home of the former head chef of the Wanhao Hotel. Now his apprentices are the head chefs at the Wanhao Hotel. After he retired, he started a small business at home, but because of his age and hand injury, he only cooks a small amount of food every day. I brought you here to try our luck. We might not be able to eat," Qin Xiaowei said. Exin's eyes lit up. The level of the Wanhao Hotel was indeed quite remarkable. The two of them made several turns in the alley and soon arrived at a lane. In the lane, there were several wooden tables set up in the open air. It wasn't luxurious, but it was clean. There were already some people in the lane. "Wan Yan," Qin Xiaowei suddenly called out in surprise. "Why are you here too?" Yes, the people in the lane were Jiang Wanyan, Bai Yao, and their two other friends. Jiang Wanyan turned around and saw Qin Xiaowei and Exin. She said in surprise, "Xiaowei, why are you with Exin?" Bai Yao was slightly surprised but didn't say anything. Zhou Rui snorted, "He's really lingering." Then he took out his phone, found Lan Xing's WeChat, sent a location, and typed, "Exin is here." In the alley, several wooden tables were placed on the ground. For people were sitting around one of them. They were Jiang Wanwan, Bai Yao, Zhou Rui, and a smartly dressed girl. Jiang Wanwan looked at Qin Xiaowei and asked in surprise, "Why are you with Exin?" Qin Xiaowei smiled and said, "He went to my internet cafe to surf the internet, and then he helped me solve a problem. I wanted to invite him to eat at Master Su's, hoping Master Su would cook for us." As she spoke, she looked inside and asked, "Where is Master Su?" "We've already notified his disciple. Master Su is still sleeping, but he should be getting up now," Jiang Wanwan said. Exin asked blankly, "It's just us here now. We should be able to eat, right?" "Not necessarily," Qin Xiaowei sighed. "Whether Master Su is willing to cook depends on whether he likes us or not. If he likes us, he'll cook. If he doesn't, he won't. Also, he might like you this time, but not the next time he sees you." "What a strange temper," Exin said speechlessly, thinking to himself. "It feels like he's even more temperamental than those old men and women in the night watch." Beside them, Zhou Rui pouted and said, "He's just a chef. As long as we give him enough money. I don't believe he won't cook." After he finished speaking, the expressions of the others changed slightly. Jiang Wanwan quickly said, "Senior Zhou Rui, don't talk nonsense. Master Su isn't someone who likes money, and he's not short of money either." Zhou Rui sneered, but he still gave Jiang Wanwan some face and didn't continue speaking. "I was originally going to cook a good meal for you today when I heard that Wanwan was bringing her friends here." A voice full of vigor suddenly rang out. Then, an old man with gray hair but a rosy complexion pushed open the door of a nearby room and came out. He was wearing a white chef's uniform. Beside him was a middle-aged man in his 30s. Although they were in such an alley, his chef's uniform was quite clean and spotless. Jiang Wanwan's expression changed slightly. She quickly smiled and said, Grandpa Su, this senior of mine doesn't understand the rules here. Please don't take it to heart. Master Su glanced at Zhou Rui and said indifferently, the shop is closed today. Please leave. 50,000. Just then, Zhou Rui held up 5 fingers and said lightly, I can give you 50,000 yuan to cook this meal. Master Su suddenly turned his head to look at him. A cold smile appeared on Zhou Rui's face. Looking at Master Su's angry face, he said again, 100,000. What an idiot. Yi Xian couldn't help but curse in his heart. In the eyes of rich second-generation kids like Zhou Rui, there was no one in this world who didn't like money. Money could solve everything, as long as you gave enough. Jiang Wanwan and Qin Xiaowei both frowned. Hearing Zhou Rui's words, Master Su's body trembled slightly. 200,000. Zhou Rui continued to raise the stakes. At the same time, he glanced provocatively at Yi Xian, as if saying, Can you take out this much money? Brat, you're going too far. Master Su roared, turned around, and walked directly into the room. Beside him, the middle-aged man looked at Zhou Rui and said indifferently, My master is going to rest. We are closed today and will not be cooking. Please leave, everyone. And all of you here today, please do not come to the restaurant again in the future. From today on, we will no longer serve any of you. Then, he looked at Zhou Rui and said, Young man, you may be very rich, but there are many things in this world that money can't buy. We don't dare to offend rich people like you, but we also have the right to choose who we cook for. The expressions of Jiang Wanwan and the others changed. Zhou Rui sneered and said, He's just a chef. If we don't eat here, we don't eat here. Let's go. We can eat somewhere else. Jiang Wanwan and Qin Xiaowei both frowned. Jiang Wanwan glanced at Zhou Rui and said, Senior Zhou Rui, you've gone too far. Qin Xiaowei also sighed and said, Yi Xian, let's go too. It seems that our luck is really not good today. Zhou Rui still looked indifferent. Yes, in his opinion, this Master Su was too pretentious, just a chef, but putting on airs in front of him. Perhaps I have a way to get Master Su to cook for us, Yi Xian suddenly said at this moment. Everyone frowned and looked at him. Zhou Rui sneered and said, I offered him 200,000, and he still refused to cook for us. What makes you think you can do it? You used to move bricks in Jiangqing. Are you planning to move a few bricks in his house too? Bai Yao frowned slightly and looked at Yi Xian. Jiang Wanwan quickly said, Yi Xian, forget it. Master Su is already very annoyed with us. Please don't make things worse, okay? Anyway, they already said they won't serve you anymore. This is the worst outcome, right? Yi Xian smiled and said, By the way, I just noticed that Master Su's right hand was shaking. Did he suffer any injuries when he was young? The middle-aged man at the door frowned when he heard Yi Xian's words. Jiang Wanwan sighed and said, Yes, Master Su used to be the head chef at a Michelin-starred Chinese restaurant. Later, my father met him and they became close friends. Then my father invited him to the Marriott Hotel. The Marriott Hotel was one of the industries owned by Jiang Wanwan's family. After he came to the hotel, his culinary skills greatly improved our business. However, our competitor at the time, Lan Xing's family, suffered a blow in the catering industry. They tried to poach Master Su with money. Jiang Wanwan said with a bitter smile. Master Su naturally refused, but then his right hand was injured, and he could no longer hold a knife. He was disheartened and chose to retire, occasionally cooking in this small alley. Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. If he can't hold a knife, he can't hold a wok either, Zhou Rui said disdainfully. I don't believe he can make anything good. Jiang Wanwan frowned and said, Now, all the ingredients are prepared by Master Su himself, and then Chef Qin cooks. Chef Qin Hua is Master Su's best disciple. As she spoke, she looked at the middle-aged man at the door. The middle-aged man snorted coldly and did not speak. Zhou Rui glanced at him disdainfully and then looked at Yi Xian with a half-smile, saying, You said you could get us to eat here again. Asking this is simply tearing open someone's scars. Yi Xian ignored him. He took a step forward, walked to the middle-aged man, smiled slightly, and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, Master Su's hand seems normal usually, but he can't exert force. When he tries, it feels like he can't muster any strength. Qinhua looked at Yi Xian and asked, So what? You can go in and tell Master Su that I have a way to restore his arm. Not to mention holding a knife. He could even swing a knife to chop people without any problems, Exin said with a smile. Qin Hua was taken aback at first. Then he sneered and said, "Since my master was injured, we have consulted countless hospitals, both large and small, including many famous doctors in the mountains. They have no way to solve it. We only heard of one method that has a chance of recovery, but that method is too mysterious. It's simply 13 needles of the ghost gate," Exin said calmly. Hearing this, Qin Hua's pupils suddenly shrank. He looked at Exin and asked, "How do you know?" "His condition is caused by damaged meridians, and this is naturally the most magical treatment for it," Exin said in a low voice. Qin Hua's expression changed unpredictably. He looked at Exin and said, "Do you know how to do it?" "Of course I don't, but I know someone who does. And I'm absolutely sure that he can cure him," Exin said with a smile. Qin Hua's face suddenly became excited. He looked at Exin and said, "You don't know how to do it yourself. Why should I believe you?" Exin smiled slightly and said, 13 needles of the Gate of Ghosts. Most people probably don't know about this. The fact that I can say it naturally proves a lot. How about this? My friend and I came here today, mainly to eat Chef Su's cooking. How about you cook for us? And I'll call my friend now to come and diagnose Chef Su." Qin Hua's expression suddenly became uncertain. He took a breath and said, "I'll go ask my master." With that, he turned and ran into the room. Exin was very confident. He didn't think Master Su could refuse him. It could be seen that he was very passionate about being a chef. Even though his right hand could no longer hold a knife, he still ran a small restaurant here and would receive some guests. Now that he had given him hope, no matter how small, Master Su would definitely choose to try. He rubbed his nose and retreated into the alley. Zhang Wanwan looked at Exin suspiciously and asked, "What did you say to him that was so mysterious? Will he really cook for us?" Exin smiled and said, "The two of us can definitely eat. As for you guys, I'm not too sure." He decided to tease Zhang Wanwan. Zhang Wanwan's beautiful eyes widened. "What do you mean? Could it be that you didn't include us?" Exin shrugged and said, "Yeah, Qin Xiaowei and I were originally going to part ways with you." "You are so petty," Zhang Wanwan said speechlessly. Beside them, Zhou Rui said disdainfully, "Playing mysterious. I couldn't even get it done with 200,000 yuan. I don't believe that he'll cook for you with just a few words. Yao Yao, let's go. Don't wait here." While they were talking, the door to the room opened again, and Qin Hua walked out. He walked up to Exin and said politely, "Brother, my master has agreed." Slap in the face always comes suddenly. Exin glanced at Zhou Rui with a half smile and said with a smile, "Then I'll have to trouble master." Qin Hua nodded. He looked at Zhou Rui with disgust. If his master hadn't seen hope, he would never cook for someone like Zhou Rui. "Wait a moment, my master and I will go prepare. Also, don't forget what you promised," Qin Hua said indifferently. Exin nodded and smiled. "Don't worry, no problem." Qin Hua nodded, then turned and entered the room again. As for Master Su, he didn't show himself. After seeing them leave, Zhang Wanwan jumped out and said, "Exin, how did you do it? Master Su is really willing to cook for us. I just told Master Su that I know a doctor who can heal his hand," Exin said with a smile. "No way, Master Su's hand. He's visited almost all the major hospitals and famous doctors at home and abroad, and none of them could cure him," Zhang Wanwan asked in surprise. "You actually know such a doctor?" Zhou Rui squeezed in and said, "Lie, of course. Get the meal first, then run away. Someone who's been in prison for a few years and then works on a construction site knows a famous doctor? What a joke. But then again, you've been in prison for a few years. This kind of trickery must be second nature to you. If you think I got it by lying, then don't eat it later," Exin said, looking at him with a slight smile. Zhou Rui was taken aback, then sneered, thinking to himself, "Laugh, laugh all you want. After the person Lan Xing invited arrives, I'll see if you're still laughing." He didn't say anything more, just thinking about how to expose Exin's lies later. Exin ignored him. He walked to the side, took out his phone, found Zhichuyu, and called her. Yes, the person he knew was naturally Zhichuyu, one of the best doctors in the world. Soon, the other end of the phone picked up. Zhichuyu was obviously still sleeping. Hearing Exin's words, she said in a daze, "Hello, I'm sleeping. What are you doing?" Exin coughed dryly and said, "Well, Chuyu, come over here." I have a patient here that only you in the whole world can cure. Wait until I wake up, Zhichuyu said. Don't. Saving a life is more meritorious than building a 7-story pagoda, Yi Xin hurriedly said. Zhichuyu clearly struggled for a while on the other end before she sat up and said, Give me the address. Yi Xin breathed a sigh of relief, hung up the phone, sent the address to Zhichuyu on WeChat, and sat down. Bai Yao and the others heard the content of his call. They looked at Yi Xin in surprise, and Jiang Wanwan hesitated. You really know a great doctor? Yes, the best doctor in the world, bar none, Yi Xin said lightly. Zhou Rue smiled disdainfully. He didn't believe that Yi Xin could really invite anyone. At this time, a burst of fragrance began to spread in the alley. Just smelling the fragrance was enough to make people's appetites increase. Yi Xin couldn't help but look forward to it. After about 10 minutes, Zhichuyu appeared at the entrance of the alley in a white coat and carrying a medicine bag. The moment she appeared, everyone in the alley, regardless of gender, couldn't help but show a look of amazement in their eyes. Zhou Rue, who was beside them, looked at Zhichuyu and couldn't help but swallow. Qin Xiaowei looked at the medicine bag on Zhichuyu's body and swallowed, asking, Is this the doctor you invited? At this time, Zhichuyu had already walked over. She ignored everyone else, looked at Yi Xin, and said lightly, Where's the patient? I'll take you there, Yi Xin said. With that, he stood up, glanced at the others, and led Yi Xin towards the room. In the back kitchen, Master Su and Qin Hua were busy. After Yi Xin briefly introduced them, Zhichuyu took Master Su's hand and looked at it. After a while, she nodded and said, Indeed, the 13 needles of the Gate of Ghosts can cure it. With that, she exhaled and said, Arrange a quiet room. I'll give you the acupuncture now. When Master Su heard Zhichuyu's words, his whole body couldn't help but tremble. Qin Hua looked at Zhichuyu with some concern and asked, Are you really sure? Yi Xin said lightly, When the Gate of Ghosts needle appears, even the king of hell makes way. In this world, the only one who knows the 13 needles of the Gate of Ghosts is Dr. Zhou in front of you, Qin Hua said with ecstasy. All right, I'll arrange a quiet room for you right now. Master Su said, I'll take Dr. Zhou there. You stay here and keep an eye on the kitchen. Qin Hua nodded. He looked at Yi Xin and said, Then please wait in the alley. The dishes will be served soon. Yi Xin nodded and retreated from the back kitchen. After retreating to the alley, Qin Xiaowei quickly asked, How is it? I told you, the doctor I invited is the best in the world. She can definitely handle it, Yi Xin said. Zhou Rue snorted coldly, obviously not believing Yi Xin's words. Yi Xin was too lazy to say more and continued to wait. After another 10 minutes or so, the door to the room was suddenly pushed open, and Qin Hua ran out of the room with an excited expression. His appearance startled Jiang Wanwan and the others. Zhou Rue sneered, It's over. He probably found a quack doctor. The other party found out he was cheated and came to settle the score. Thump! At this moment, Qin Hua suddenly ran to Yi Xin and knelt down on the ground with a thud. Master Qin, what are you doing? Yi Xin quickly tried to help him up. Thank you, little brother. Thank you so much. Master's injury has troubled him for many years. For a chef, you don't know how cruel it is to not be able to hold a knife. Just now, after Doctor's acupuncture, Master picked up the knife again. Doctor just said that after a few more sessions, he will be completely recovered. Qin Hua knelt in front of Yi Xin and said, Thank you so much. His eyes were red, and tears were streaming down his face. Yi Xin quickly helped him up and said, This is just a small matter. If you really want to thank someone, thank Dr. Zhe. I just help a little. Beside them, Jiang Wanwan and the others were stunned. This scene obviously meant that the doctor Yi Xin invited had really cured Master Su's hand. You actually know such a top doctor, and she's a stunning beauty, Jiang Wanwan said in astonishment. The way she and Qin Xiaowei looked at Yi Xin changed. Yes, the more they looked, the more mysterious he became. They realized they didn't understand Yi Xin at all. While they were talking, Dr. Zhe emerged from the room, carrying her medical bag, her expression as cold as ever. Qin Hua, now helped up by Yi Xin, sniffled and wiped away his tears, saying, Please wait a moment. All the dishes are almost ready. They'll be up soon. With that, he went over to Dr. Zhe and thanked her profusely. Zhichuyu remained impassive, simply nodding before walking over to Yi Exine and saying, I ran into a few petty thieves at the door just now. I dealt with them for you. They said they were sent by Lan Xing. At these words, Yi Exine's eyebrows twitched, while Zhou Rui, standing beside him, turned pale. What's going on with this Lan Xing? The people he hired were taken care of by a doctor? A female doctor? He cursed inwardly. Yi Exine nodded. All right. Want to stay for a bite? Dr. Zhe gave him a cold look. I'm not in the mood to eat. You disturb my sleep, and I'll settle the score with you when you get home. Her words left everyone stunned. Settle the score when he gets home? Does that mean Yi Exine and this beautiful doctor live together? A flicker of emotion crossed by Yao's calm face before she regained her composure. Zhang Wanwan, curious, asked, Beautiful doctor, do you and Yi Exine live? Before she could finish, Zhichuyu gave her a cold glance, let out a snort, and turned to leave. From beginning to end, she didn't speak to anyone other than Yi Exine. This left Zhang Wanwan feeling awkward. Yi Exine chuckled. He knew Zhichuyu's personality too well and didn't say anything, only giving Zhou Rui a knowing smile. He had come alone, and if anyone had been following him, he would have noticed. But now that Lan Xing's people had found him, there was only one explanation. Zhou Rui had informed Lan Xing of his whereabouts. After being repeatedly humiliated, Zhou Rui remained silent, sitting alone with a dark expression. At that moment, the dishes started arriving at the table. Yi Exine picked up his chopsticks, took a bite, and his eyes narrowed in delight. Wow, this is so delicious. It's really delicious, Jiang Wanwan exclaimed exaggeratedly. Indeed, it was incredibly delicious. Yi Exine swore he had tasted countless delicacies in his life, but this meal was undoubtedly the best he had ever had. Bai Yao's eyes flickered for a moment. Then she looked up at Yi Exine and asked, Yi Exine, is that doctor really the best doctor in the world? Yi Exine furrowed his brow, nodded, and asked, In my opinion, yes, why? Bai Yao bit her lip, glanced at Zhou Rui, then lowered her head and continued eating without explaining. Yi Exine understood. She probably felt uncomfortable talking about it in front of Zhou Rui. His mind was stirred. He glanced at Zhou Rui, didn't ask further, and continued eating. Meanwhile, in Garden District, inside Lin Qingshue's home, Lin Qingxue sat listlessly on the sofa, while Bai Lianxiang held a bowl of rice, saying, Qingxue, no matter what, you need to eat something. Beside her, Lin Qian supported her and said, That's right, Qingxue. Have something to eat. It's just Han Shuo, isn't it? With your looks and figure, you can easily find someone better than Han Shuo. Lin Qingshue's tears continued to flow. After a while, she suddenly looked up at Bai Lianxiang and said, Mom, I regret it. Bai Lianxiang said instinctively, Regret what? I regret divorcing Yi Exine, Lin Qingxue said, wiping her tears. Bai Lianxiang sighed and sat down beside her. Regret? How could she not regret it? The old Yi Exine was completely obedient to them, did whatever they asked, was no different from a servant for 3 years, and handed over every penny he had. And now, he had become the CEO of a company. He had money. If they hadn't divorced, that company would have belonged to Bai Lianxiang and Lin Qingxue. Lin Qian felt the same way. The person who used to work with Yi Exine on the construction site had become her direct superior after Yi Exine bought the company, with an annual salary of $1 million. If Yi Exine and Lin Qingxue hadn't divorced, if she had been nicer to Yi Exine, perhaps she would be the head of personnel now. She sighed inwardly. It had only been a few days since the divorce, but the difference was already obvious. I want to get back together, Lin Qingxue said, wiping her tears. Bai Lianxiang and Lin Qian both turned to look at her. I want to get back together, Lin Qingxue repeated, her tone firm. At the same time, in a certain villa in Jiang City, a middle-aged man was playing with a child, a kind smile on his face. But anyone who knew him would know that this man was not kind at all. In Jiang City, his name was well known. He was the man behind the Mingmei bar, Tao Dingyun's uncle, Wang Jun. Ding dong! Ding dong! The doorbell suddenly rang, and the nanny quickly opened the door. Tao Dingyun and Zhou Yulin were standing at the door. Seeing them, Wang Jun quickly stood up and greeted Zhou Yulin politely. Brother Lin. Zhou Yulin sneered. Wang Jun, you said that if I came to Jiang City, I wouldn't suffer any grievances. Wang Jun looked at his bruised face, frowned, and said, Let's talk in my study. In the study, Tao Dingyun recounted the whole incident, gnashing his teeth and saying, "Uncle, we can't let this go. It's one thing for him to slap me, but he didn't even give Uncle Lin face. I think we should just slap." Just then, Wang Jun suddenly raised his hand and slapped Tao Dingyun on his left cheek. Tao Dingyun was stunned, looking at Wang Jun in shock. "I told you last time not to provoke him, not to provoke him. It was hard enough to get him to let it go, and you went looking for him again. Are you deaf?" Wang Jun roared in anger. Beside him, Zhou Yulin frowned and said, "Wang Jun, I don't think your nephew did anything wrong. That kid is just someone by Jiang Zhenan's side. What's there to be afraid of? I'll go talk to Jiang Zhenan." He looked at Wang Jun. "You've really gone downhill. Now you're scared of a brat." He reached out his hand, revealing a small tattoo on his arm. Seeing this tattoo, Wang Jun's face changed dramatically, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Brother Lin, what do you want to do?" Zhou Yulin grinned. "I want that woman, and I want that kid to kneel before me and watch me have fun with that woman." On the other side, amidst a somewhat strange atmosphere, the dinner was slowly coming to an end. At the table, Jiang Wanwan and Qin Xiaowei were full of curiosity, constantly sizing up Yi Xian. The appearance of Qin Yu once again made Yi Xian even more mysterious in their hearts. In Jiang Wanwan's view, was her father's rescue because he had some kind of illness and Yi Xian introduced him to a doctor? And in Qin Xiaowei's eyes, Yi Xian was too strange. He was too cowardly before, but he was extremely tough when he encountered trouble at the internet cafe. He had just gotten divorced and was now living with a doctor who was beautiful to the extreme. This was simply too strange of a person. Zhou Rui lowered his head. No matter how delicious this meal was, he felt it was somewhat tasteless. He couldn't handle Master Su, but Yi Xian did. He felt quite upset. As for Bai Yao and Sheninin, they were relatively quiet, eating in small bites. In the strange atmosphere, the dishes on the table were rapidly disappearing. "Check, please." Finally, when it was time to leave, Zhou Rui felt it was his time to shine. He waved his hand and said, Jiang Wanwan quickly said, "Senior Zhou, you came to Jiangcheng. How can we let you pay?" "Let me. How can we let ladies pay for this kind of thing? Let's go Dutch, guys." As he spoke, he smiled at Yi Xian and said, "I'm right, Yi Xian." He had heard Jiang Wanwan's introduction on the way here. Although Master Su didn't cook many dishes due to his hand injury, the price was actually quite expensive. The average cost per person for a meal would be 2,000 to 3,000, and the total cost for a meal would be at least 10,000 upwards. This price was not much different from the top floor of the Marriott Hotel. Of course, judging from the taste, it was worth the money, but he knew that Yi Xian's salary was definitely not high. Perhaps he could afford this amount, but it would definitely hurt him financially. Yi Xian curled his lips and ignored him. Seeing Yi Xian's silence, Zhou Rui became even more smug. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Oh, my bad, my bad. I forgot that you are no longer a member of the Yi family. You are now just working on a construction site. It is indeed a bit difficult for you to pay half of the money. I'll pay for this meal." Then he looked at Yi Xian and said, "Speaking of which, Yi Xian, it's too tiring for you to work on a construction site. How about I introduce you to a job? Come back to Linhai with us this time. Our family has some influence in Linhai. It's no problem to introduce you to a job. Of course, because you have been in prison, I definitely can't introduce you to any decent job." Zhou Rui said with a smile, "How about you come to my company to be a security guard or a cleaner? Of course, I won't shortchange you. 20,000 a month, which should be much higher than your salary on the construction site, right?" Zhou Rui's words made everyone else frown slightly. No matter what, this meal was only possible because of Yi Xian's efforts. They all knew that Zhou Rui was saying this at this time purely to disgust Yi Xian. It was impossible for Yi Xian to go work for him. Yi Xian raised his eyes to look at Zhou Rui and said indifferently, "Did I ever say that I wanted you to introduce me to a job?" Zhou Rui frowned and said, "I was just being kind. If you don't want it, then forget it. Waiter, come and settle the bill. How much is it?" At this time, Qinhua walked out. He said politely to Yi Xian, "My master said to thank young brother Yi Xian for his help. This meal is on the house. If young brother Yi Xian wants to eat in the future, you can come anytime, permanently free of charge." Hearing this, Jiang Wanwan and Qin Xiaowei's eyes showed envy. Jiang Wanwan quickly said, "Yi Xian, you must bring me next time you come." Yi Xian smiled, stood up, and said, "Then I thank Master Qin and Master Su." After a few polite words, the group walked out of the alley. Jiang Wanwan asked, "We plan to go to Yuxiang Mountain. Do you want to join us?" Yuxiang Mountain was another tourist attraction in Jiangxing. "I'm fine with anything. I have nothing to do in the afternoon anyway," Qin Xiaowei said, and then they looked at Yexin. Zhou Rui frowned. Obviously, he didn't want to bring Yexin along. "I have something to do in the afternoon." Yexin said, "I won't go." Zhou Rui breathed a slight sigh of relief and thought to himself, "Good that you're sensible." Yexin thought for a moment and whispered in Qin Xiaowei's ear, "Be careful when you go out to play." He meant two things by be careful. One was that the people from the Red Lotus might make a move on Jiang Wanwan, and the other was that Tao Dingyun and Zhou Yulin might look for trouble with Qin Xiaowei again. Of course, the Night Watch was definitely sending people to guard Jiang Wanwan in secret. Qin Xiaowei was relatively safe with Jiang Wanwan and the others. After they left, Yexin strolled back home. Just as he reached the entrance of the residential area, Yexin's phone rang. He picked up his phone and saw that it was Lin Qingxue calling. He was amused. Lin Qingxue was actually calling him at this time. He had seen the scene at the entrance of the residential area clearly just now. He smiled, then answered the phone and said calmly, "Hello, Yexin." Lin Qingxue's voice was a little choked up on the other end of the phone. "Where are you? Let's meet up." "There's nothing to meet about. Didn't I tell you last time? I will no longer have any contact with your family. Your uncle saved my life, and I took care of you for 3 years and gave you a house. We are even," Yexin said indifferently. "No, I have something I want to talk to you about." Lin Qingxue's voice was still a little choked up. "I'm already out now. Let's meet somewhere. How about the coffee shop at the entrance of the residential area?" "There's nothing to talk about," Yexin said. With that, he hung up the phone. Then he turned and walked into the residential area. Just as he turned around, he saw Lin Qingxue walking out of the entrance. Her eyes were red, and she also saw Yexin, and then she quickly ran over. Yexin frowned, looked at Lin Qingxue, who was coming over, and said, "If you have something to say, just say it here. After you're done, let's not meet again, and let's not contact each other anymore." Lin Qingxue pursed her lips and said, "Yexin, I broke up with Han Shuai. He's a scumbag." Yexin laughed and said, "Actually, you and your mother are pretty much the same. It's a pity that you broke up, and now you'll go and harm other people." Lin Qingxue was stunned for a moment, then lowered her head and said, "I know. You must hate us. You only know how to cherish something after you lose it. In these 3 years, my mother, my family, and I have all been too harsh on you." Speaking of this, she pursed her lips, looked up, and asked, "Yexin, after the divorce, you still appeared around me, and even rented a house in the Garden District just to be closer to me, right? You must still like me, right?" Yexin almost fainted. "I'm living in the Garden District purely by coincidence. It's just that Jachinyu and the others rented a house here, okay? You're overthinking." Yexin curled his lips. Lin Qingxue bit her lip again and said, "Yexin, let's remarry. I will definitely be good to you this time, and I won't overthink things anymore. We will live a good married life. As long as you are willing, I can give myself to you tonight. Didn't you always say that we were married for 3 years, but you never even touched my hand? You can do whatever you want tonight. Let's have a child together." "Stop, stop." Yexin quickly waved his hand. At this moment, Lin Qingxue's tears suddenly flowed down. She looked at Yexin and said, "Yexin, I really have nothing left. Are you going to abandon me too?" At the entrance of the Garden District, Lin Qingxue's hair was a bit messy, and there were tear stains on her face. She looked at Yexin with a pitiful expression. Just a few days ago, when facing Yexin, she still had that aloof and disdainful look. In just a few days, her attitude had changed drastically. This was reality. "I have nothing left now. Are you going to abandon me too?" Lin Qingxue looked at Yexin and said in a pleading tone. Yexin got goosebumps. It would have been fine if these words came from other girls, but coming from Lin Qingxue, he felt uncomfortable all over. "Stop it, okay?" Yexin said calmly. "Our marriage was a mistake to begin with. I had lost my memory back then, to repay the debt of gratitude. And because you couldn't go against your father's wishes, we got married. Moreover, it was only a marriage in name. Yes, their marriage was a mistake. If Yexin hadn't lost his memory, he would never have fallen for a shallow and materialistic girl like Lin Qingxue. If Lin Qingxue and Bai Lianxiang had been like ordinary women during these 3 years, it might have been fine. But this mother and daughter were truly hard to describe. Secondly, I think you know how you treated me during these 3 years. The debt of gratitude I owed has been more or less repaid during this time. From the moment I signed the divorce papers, we were completely over, Yang Hao said lightly. Thirdly, although our marriage was only in name, from the outcome, you cheated on me. I haven't taken revenge on you, which is already the limit of what I can bear. You can't just come back to me after you found out I'm rich and Han Shuo dumped you. Yi Xan, haven't fallen so low as to be a backup for a woman, especially a woman like you. Yi Xian's tone was very calm. His words weren't harsh, but they were the truth. Lin Qingxue cried and said, I know, I didn't know how to cherish. I was greedy. I really know I was wrong. Can you give me another chance? Yi Xian said lightly, I'll leave the house to you. There's no possibility between us. That's all I have to say. Take care of yourself. I've made things clear today, and we'll draw a line from now on. I won't interfere in your lives, and you shouldn't come looking for me, especially your mother. If she comes to my company and makes trouble again, don't blame me for being impolite. He knew Bai Lianxiang too well. Now that Han Shuo had abandoned Lin Qingxue, and they had no source of income, Bai Lianxiang would definitely come to the company to make trouble for the sake of property or for them to remarry. Lin Qingxue was stunned. She, Bai Lianxiang, and Lin Qian had calculated that Yi Xian must still like her. But Yi Xian's current behavior was too resolute. At the same time, she said with a bitter smile in her heart, That's right, every woman around him now is no less beautiful than me. He's also rich now, and he can definitely find a woman better than me. He definitely doesn't look up to me anymore. Yi Xian didn't bother with her anymore. He felt that he had said enough. He no longer wanted to have any contact with his family. He ignored Lin Qingxue and turned back to the community. Lin Qingxue stood blankly at the entrance of the community, looking at Yi Xian's back. She felt a little dazed. In just a few days, her life had undergone earth-shattering changes. Regret. She did regret it. She regretted it to the core. Her heart felt empty, and she walked towards home in a daze. Yi Xian didn't care too much. He went straight back home and opened the door. He found Ming Xiaonan and Zhichuyu sitting in the dining room, having a meal. Yi Xian asked in surprise, Weren't you supposed to be sleeping? Zhichuyu glanced at him lightly and said, You woke us up. We couldn't fall asleep after we came back. I was just trying to save someone. Yi Xian coughed dryly. Zhichuyu snorted coldly, then raised her head and said, By the way, those two little thieves said they were from Blue Star. How did you get involved with them? Yi Xian smiled bitterly and told her about how Jiang Wanwan had dragged him in to be your shield. After listening, Zhichuyu said with a half-smile, You have quite a lot of women around you. You pretend to be Zhou Qianqian's boyfriend one moment, and Jiang Wanwan's the next. Well, there's nothing I can do. I'm too outstanding. I have a bit of a headache. I always attract women's attention, Yi Xian said with a chuckle. Tui, Ming Xiaonan spat. Zhichuyu glanced at Yi Xian, not engaging in banter with him, and said, Since Jiang Wanwan said she's your girlfriend, that fits perfectly with my suggestion to you last time. You can appear by her side, as her husband, and protect her. With you there, Xiaonan and I, along with the others, can withdraw. Don't. There are many ways to ensure her safety, like being her bodyguard. Or working at her company, Yi Xian said. A smile appeared on the corner of Zhichuyu's mouth. All right then, I'll talk to Jiang Jinan later and arrange for you to work at their company. As for your position, Jiang Jinan will arrange it. You should be working under Jiang Wanwan. Didn't you say that Red Rose has already arrived in Jiang City? I hope that next time we meet, you can bring Red Rose's head to us. Yi Xian frowned. Are you leaving? Zhichuyu and Ming Xiaonan nodded. The mission here has been dragging on for too long. Red Lotus is too secretive this time. We have other things to do. Since you've recovered now and are operating in the dark, you alone are completely sufficient here. As she said this, she pondered for a moment and continued. In short, try not to expose your identity. Keep this card. It will be a trump card. Yi Xian frowned, then exhaled. All right. Zhichuyu looked at Yi Xian and frowned. Also, be careful this time. Don't lose yourself again. Also, didn't you plan to go to Linhai to resolve some past matters? Oh? Yi Xian nodded. I do have that plan. The only thing left to do in Jiang City is Jiang Wanwan's mission. If everything goes well, I'll head over there once it's done. All right, when you get there, try to find out number two's whereabouts, Zhichu said, looking up. Yi Xian's heart stirred slightly. Have you discovered number two's tracks? Number two had come to Jiang City with Yi Xian 3 years ago to carry out that mission. At that time, Night Watchman number 7 died in battle, and number 2 disappeared. Yi Xian lost his memory. Zhichu shook her head. Just some clues. We just received news that 2 bodies were found in Linhai. Judging from the method, it was number two's doing. Yi Xian asked in surprise. Ordinary people? I don't know, Zhichu said. Anyway, when you get to Linhai, check it out if you have time. Number 2 has only ever trusted you. Yi Xian exhaled. I understand. Zhichu thought for a moment and added, by the way, to save you some trouble, I'll take care of Blue Star for you. How will you take care of it? Yi Xian asked in surprise. By making their family go bankrupt, Zhichu said calmly. Yi Xian was speechless. However, judging from Master Su's incident, this Blue Star family was unscrupulous in their business practices. These kinds of business people should indeed be punished. For the Night Watchman to make a small family like Blue Star go bankrupt was a piece of cake. With that, Zhichu put down her chopsticks, stood up, looked at the time, and said, their car should be arriving soon. You'll have to clean up this stuff later. Xiaonan and I have to go. Yi Xian nodded. I'll see you off. Ming Xiaonan was taken aback, and then a look of embarrassment appeared on her face. You'd better not see us off. Why? Yi Xian asked in surprise. Ming Xiaonan pursed her lips and said, it's the current number 0 of the Night Watchman who's coming to pick us up. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly. The Night's Watch, this mysterious organization of Huaxia, they possess fighting strength that surpasses ordinary people. And Night's Watch's 0 represents the strongest fighting force of this organization. Yi Xian joined the Night's Watch at the age of 18 and became Night's Watch's 0 at 21. From then on, the position of 0 had never been taken by anyone else until he lost his memory, disappeared. But the position of 0 cannot remain vacant. Naturally, someone else will take over. Yi Xian is currently not enlisted, and his combat power has not been reassessed, so the position of 0 has fallen to someone else. Now, this new 0 has arrived at the Garden District to escort Jichinyu, Ming Xiaonan, and a series of Night's Watch members from Jiang City away. Speaking of this, Ming Xiaonan's face revealed a trace of embarrassment as she said, in the 3 years you were gone, the position of 0 couldn't be left vacant. We couldn't keep it for you. Yi Xian smiled and ruffled her hair, saying, what are you thinking? I don't care about this title that much, and if it's mine, I will definitely take it back myself, but... Speaking of this, his expression shifted. You guys are evacuating Jiang City this time, and even mobilize 0. It must be to carry out a rather difficult mission. Mobilizing 0 isn't enough. You also have to bring doctors. Dr. Zhe raised her eyes and glanced at him, without speaking. All right, I won't ask. In short, be careful. If there is any danger, contact me immediately. I will definitely rush over at once. Yi Xian looked at Jichinyu and said seriously. Jichinyu exhaled. You too. All the Night's Watch members in Jiang City will be evacuated. You're the only one left. Be careful. Yi Xian grinned coldly. I'd love for all the Red Lotus people to come, so I can deal with them all at once. These scumbags. Jichinyu knew Yi Xian's level and didn't say anything more. She returned to her room, dragged out a suitcase, and said, then let's go. Yi Xian exhaled and also got up to go downstairs. At the entrance of the Garden District, several cars were parked in a row. At the front was a silver-white Land Rover SUV. There stood a young man with a crew cut, wearing a cheap black vest, beach shorts, and flip-flops. He looked to be around 24 or 25, with dark skin and not very tall. If it were any other time, at first glance, one would think this person was a frivolous idiot. But when he leaned against the huge and luxurious Land Rover, everyone's gaze towards him changed. This person is the current 0 of the Night's Watch, Lu Yang. He stood at the entrance, waiting quietly, a hint of anticipation in his eyes. In the Garden District, Yi Xian was dragging the 2 large suitcases of Jichinyu and Ming Xiaonan out. He said in surprise, you said this new 0 has only been in the Night's Watch for 3 years? Not even 3 years, Ming Xiaonan said. He arrived when you hadn't disappeared yet, but you probably never met. Like you, he rose quickly, and now he has become the Night's Watch's 0. His rise was even faster than yours. Exin nodded. To become zero of the Night's Watch in less than 3 years, this speed was indeed a bit faster than his. It actually took him 3 years and 17 days to become zero. Interesting. Exin's lips curled up. Soon, they reached the entrance of the garden district. At the entrance, Lu Yang quickly came up to them. He ignored Jachinyu and Ming Xiaonan, walked directly to Exin, and stared at him. You are Exin? Exin nodded. You are Lu Yang, right? The current zero. A look of arrogance flashed across Lu Yang's face. That's me. Exin looked him up and down, feeling secretly surprised. This person really doesn't look like an expert. His attire was even more difficult to describe than his own. Too bad if there weren't so many people here. I would really like to fight you, Lu Yang said. Although I became zero, there are still many people in the Night's Watch who don't think I'm your match. I think I should let them know that the Night's Watch now is under my control. Exin's eyebrows twitched slightly upon hearing this. He then rubbed his nose and said, Actually, they're not wrong. You really can't beat me. Is that so? Lu Yang's face showed an eagerness to try. Are you going to tear down this entrance? Jachinyu glared, then looked at Exin and said, All right, you go back, we're leaving. Remember what you promised me. Don't let anything happen in Jiang City. Exin nodded. Lu Yang, however, pouted and said, What a pity. Next time we meet, I will definitely beat you to a pulp. Next time we meet, you'll probably be demoted to number 1. Exin sighed. Jachinyu felt that if they continued talking, they would really start fighting at the entrance. She quickly dragged her suitcase towards the car. Lu Yang took a deep look at Exin, then returned to his car. The car started, and a group of 4 or 5 cars slowly drove away, leaving Jiang City. Watching the cars leave, Exin also headed home. As soon as he got home, Jiang Zhenan's call came in. Hello. Exin answered the phone. Hello, Exin? Dr. Zhe's already called me and explained. Jiang Zhenan said politely. This time, I'll have to trouble you again. It's just what I should do, Exin said with a smile. I've arranged a position for you as the assistant to the vice president. Now Wan is the vice president of our group, but she doesn't handle anything, so it's just an idle position for you, Jiang Zhenan said. As for salary, how much do you think is appropriate? How about 5% of the company's shares? Exin didn't refuse. He couldn't protect them for free, and the Night's Watch didn't have strict requirements. After all, the members of the Night's Watch also had to take care of their own families. In the course of his previous missions, Exin had his own shares in many large companies. 5% of the shares was not a lot, but it wasn't a small amount either. No problem, Exin nodded. All right, then come to the company tomorrow morning. Come directly to me, and I'll take you to the HR department to register, Jiang Zhenan said. Exin nodded and hung up the phone. The next day, Exin slept until 10 o'clock before getting up. After a simple breakfast, he leisurely took the subway to Jiang Zhenan's company. Soon, he arrived at the company building and went straight to the front desk. At the front desk, a pretty girl saw Exin. Her eyes lit up, obviously recognizing him. She smiled sweetly at Exin and said, Are you here to see Ms. Jiang Wanwan, President Jiang? Exin asked in surprise. You know me? The receptionist smiled ly and said, Who in the company doesn't know you now? You are our President Jiang's boyfriend. Exin was speechless. Last time he came here, Jiang Wanwan publicly announced that he was her boyfriend. Many people were recording videos at the time, and those videos probably spread like wildfire in the company's internal group chat. Exin scratched his head. All right. The receptionist smiled at him again, took a card from the counter, and handed it to Exin. You can swipe this card to enter. Exin nodded. He was about to take the card when a figure suddenly arrived, snatched the card, and shouted, What's going on with you receptionists? How can you let just anyone into the company? If something gets stolen, can you take responsibility? Mr. Yeah. The receptionist quickly lowered her head and said, But he seems to be President Jiang's boy. Boyfriend my ass. How come I don't know that Wanwan has a boyfriend? Mr. Xie shouted in a low voice. Exin looked at him. The person in front of him was slightly taller than him, quite handsome, dressed in a sharp suit, looking like a promising young man. Seeing Exin looking at him, he sneered and said, If you want to find someone, wait outside. Our company is not a place for just anyone to enter. Look at yourself. Do you think you a loser? are worthy of Wanwan. The Dingshin Group office building. This is the largest office building in all of Jiang City, and it's exclusively used by the Dingshin Group. As the richest man in Jiang City, Jiang Jinan's businesses are spread throughout various industries in Jiang City, and the company has a considerable number of employees. At this moment, on the first floor of the Dingshin Group, Yi Xin was wearing a somewhat old t-shirt and ordinary shorts, with a pair of worn-out sneakers. Although he had now recovered his memory, Yi Xin hadn't bothered to buy new clothes, automatically overlooking this matter. His clothes were all bought when he was with Lin Qingxue, and most of them were indeed inexpensive items. Next to Yi Xin, the impeccably dressed, handsome sales manager of the Dingshin Group, Xie Kuan, looked at Yi Xin with a sneer and said, "Wait outside. Your presence in our company's building lowers its prestige. Even the uniforms of our security guards and cleaning staff are better than what you're wearing. And you think Wang would be interested in someone like you? What a joke," Xie Kuan said disdainfully. In the past 3 years, Yi Xin had heard such words countless times and had long since gotten used to them. He shrugged indifferently and then said to the receptionist, "You heard him. He's the one telling me to leave, not me." "Oh?" The receptionist was taken aback. Xie Kuan was considered a young and promising individual in the Dingshin Group. He had graduated with a master's degree from overseas and joined the Dingshin Group, climbing to the position of sales manager within a few years, demonstrating exceptional ability. Although he had never openly expressed it, everyone in the company knew that he was interested in Jiang Wanwan. The rumors of Yi Xin and Jiang Wanwan had made him very unhappy, so when Yi Xin appeared, he displayed a strong hostility. Xie Kuan thought Yi Xin was scared and didn't even dare to refute him directly. He sneered, "I said it, so what? Get out now." Yi Xin took out his phone, found Jiang Jinan's number, and dialed it. Xie Kuan's brow furrowed, and he then sneered, "Even if Wanwan were here, you wouldn't be allowed to step into the company today." Yi Xin ignored him. His call was quickly answered, and Jiang Jinan's voice came through. "Hello, Yi Xin. Are you here? Just ask the receptionist for a card to come in. This job can't be done." Yi Xin sighed. "There's a jerk downstairs who says my clothes are too shabby and it affects your company's image. He wants to kick me out. I haven't woken up properly anyway, so I'll just go home and sleep." "What?" Jiang Jinan quickly said. "Yi Xin, don't be angry. I'll come down right away and handle this." Of course, he knew about the existence of the night watch and that he was being targeted. Previously, Zhaqyu had told him that the night watch had withdrawn, and Jiang Wanwan's safety almost entirely depended on Yi Xin. Although he had arranged some bodyguards for Jiang Wanwan, he knew that compared to Yi Xin, the bodyguards he hired were far inferior. Now someone had actually provoked Yi Xin. What if Yi Xin really quit? What would happen if something happened to Jiang Wanwan? Thinking of this, he was furious and said again, "Wait a moment, I'm already at the elevator." Yi Xin smiled and said, "All right, I'll wait for you." With that, he hung up the phone and looked at Xie Kuan with a smile. Xie Kuan sneered, "Finish the call? So what?" "I said, even if Jiang Wanwan were here, you wouldn't be allowed to enter this building." Yi Xin smiled at him and walked over to a sofa in the lobby to sit down. Seeing that Yi Xin still hadn't left, Xie Kuan walked over and glared at him, asking, "Do you not understand when I tell you to leave the building? What gives you the right?" Yi Xin raised his eyes and asked, "The fact that I'm the sales manager of the Dingshin Group, part of the management. I earn $1 million a year. Is that enough?" He spoke with a hint of arrogance. "Oh," Yi Xin said nonchalantly, "if I didn't know better, I'd think you were Jiang Jinan. How dare you call the CEO by his name? Xie Kuan, what are you doing?" Just then, a loud shout suddenly rang out in the first floor lobby. The sound echoed, and the entire first floor fell into silence. Everyone looked towards the elevator, where Jiang Jinan was rushing out, his face filled with anger. "Mr. Jiang! Mr. Jiang!" In an instant, many people bowed their heads in greeting. Without a word, Jiang Jinan, under the shocked gazes of everyone, crossed the lobby and walked up to Yi Xin, who was sitting down. He then bowed and said, "Yi Xin, it's my fault for not managing my staff properly. Don't be angry, I'll take care of it." Xie Kuan was stunned. He had always believed that Yi Xin was just someone Jiang Wanwan had casually picked to appease Lan Xing, perhaps an acquaintance, but definitely not Jiang Wanwan's boyfriend. Moreover, even if Yi Xin was Jiang Wanwan's boyfriend, Jiang Jinan was his father-in-law, and it was unlikely he would bow and apologize to him. At this moment, his mind was blown, a complete blank. At this time, Jiang Jinan raised his head and looked at Siekuan. Mr. Jiang, I saw his attire. It doesn't match our company. He stammered. You've been with our company for so many years, and all you've learned is to judge people by their appearance. Jiang Jinan looked at Siekuan, his voice filled with anger. Starting today, you're removed from your position as sales manager. Go to a branch office. Siekuan's face changed drastically. He was currently the sales manager at the headquarters, and being sent to a branch office was a demotion of several levels. Also, apologize to EXN immediately, Jiang Jinan said with a dark expression. Siekuan's expression was uncertain. Because of this person, Jiang Jinan was actually demoting him. Still not apologizing? Or, do you want to pack your things and leave? Jiang Jinan shouted in a low voice. Siekuan gritted his teeth and then walked over to EXN, bowed his head and said, Mr. Yi, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have judged you by your appearance. It was my mistake. I hope you can forgive me. Jiang Jinan also looked at EXIN. It was clear that Jiang Jinan didn't want this person to leave. In other words, Siekuan must indeed be quite capable. EXIN waved his hand and said, As long as you handle it, it's fine. Jiang Jinan breathed a sigh of relief. He gave Siekuan a hard look and then led EXIN towards the elevator. Only after EXIN and Jiang Jinan disappeared into the elevator did he slump onto the sofa, his face pale. Nearby, those who had witnessed this scene were stunned. They began to wonder about EXIN's identity. Inside the elevator, Jiang Jinan saw that EXIN didn't seem angry and finally relaxed, saying, I might have to trouble you a bit. I've spoiled my daughter, and she's very curious about you, she might. It's fine, EXIN smiled. Jiang Jinan smiled and then tilted his head, asking, By the way, last time Wanwan said you were her boyfriend, and I'm actually quite fond of you. How about you two make it real? Wanwan is quite beautiful, and although her temper is a bit strange, that kind of personality can make life interesting. EXIN was stunned. This old guy seemed to be afraid that his daughter wouldn't be able to get married. He didn't respond, and Jiang Jinan took him to the HR department to complete the onboarding process. And then he led him to Jiang Wanwan's office. He knocked on the door and pushed it open. Jiang Wanwan was sitting in her office chair, wearing glasses and an OL uniform. Her hair loose, just like when EXIN first met her, with an added touch of elegance and intellect. Wanwan, I brought your assistant, Jiang Jinan said. Jiang Wanwan put down a document, looked up, and when she saw EXIN, her eyes lit up slightly. Seeing Jiang Wanwan's reaction, Jiang Jinan smiled and said, Are you satisfied? Satisfied, very satisfied. Jiang Wanwan had a sly smile on her face. All right, you two chat. I'll be going now, Jiang Jinan said, winking at EXIN before leaving the office, closing the door behind him. In the office, Jiang Wanwan took off her glasses, stood up, and looked EXIN up and down with a smirk, as if saying, You've finally fallen into my hands. To avoid being at a disadvantage, EXIN resolutely chose to look back at her. Jiang Wanwan noticed EXIN's gaze, her eyes widened, and she said, Where are your eyes wandering? EXIN coughed dryly, walked to the side, and sat down. Jiang Wanwan chuckled and said, All right, you're my subordinate now. I order you to tell me, how did you save my dad? And what's the deal with Senior Bai Yao and Senior Zhou Rui saying you committed a crime? Tell me the truth. EXIN was speechless, then raised his eyes to Jiang Wanwan and said, Your dad was in danger once, and I happened to save him. As for what Zhou Rui said, you saw his attitude towards me. But I was indeed sentenced back then. I was framed. Details. I want details. Jiang Wanwan glared. EXIN didn't answer her, but instead frowned and asked, By the way, what are Bai Yao and Zhou Rui doing in Jiang City? Jiang Wanwan was successfully diverted. She pouted and said, They came specifically to give me their wedding invitation, and then to travel around here, I guess. EXIN pondered for a moment, didn't do much, and lay down on the office sofa, then closed his eyes. Hey! Jiang Wanwan saw EXIN lying down and quickly shouted, You're here to be my assistant, not to be my master. Now, go downstairs and buy me a coffee. I want it hot. EXIN ignored her and simply closed his eyes. Jiang Wanwan stomped her foot in anger, glared at Yi Exen, and returned to her desk, picking up a document and starting to read. Yi Exen secretly squinted at her, noticing that she looked quite professional when she worked. He planned to take another nap. As he drifted in and out of sleep, he felt someone rapidly approaching him. He suddenly opened his eyes and sat up. Ah! In front of him, Jiang Wanwan suddenly saw Yi Exen get up, screamed, and fell to the ground. Seeing that the person approaching him was Jiang Wanwan, he breathed a slight sigh of relief. "What are you doing?" Jiang Wanwan sat on the ground, glared at Yi Exen and said, "Why did you suddenly sit up? You scared me to death." Yi Exen scratched his head and said, "Did you suddenly come closer for something?" Jiang Wanwan quickly nodded. Xiao Wei is in trouble. At the same time, she handed her phone to Yi Exen. Yi Exen took the phone and saw a WeChat message from Qin Xiaowei with only 2 words. "Help me." There was also a location, which was precisely the internet cafe she ran. Tao Dingyun and the others are starting their revenge, Yi Exen said with a slight chill in his eyes. "Tao Dingyun?" Jiang Wanwan said anxiously. "Yesterday, after I went home, I told my dad about Xiaowei's situation, and my dad also contacted Uncle Wang. How could they still take action? I'm going to find my dad now." Jiang Wanwan gritted her teeth. Yi Exen grabbed her and said, "Zhou Yulin's target is Qin Xiaowei, and your dad is already called Wang Zhen. They still chose to act, which proves that your dad's words don't have much effect. Then what do we do?" Jiang Wanwan's tears were about to fall. "Go and inform your dad. Let him continue to call Wang Zhen." Yi Exen licked his lips and said, "I'll go to the internet cafe. They must have a lot of people, and maybe even knives," Jiang Wanwan said. "Don't worry, as long as they haven't left the internet cafe, I'll bring Qin Xiaowei back to you safe and sound." Yi Exen said, "Give me your car keys." Qin Xiaowei quickly nodded, ran to the desk, threw the car keys to Yi Exen. Yi Exen turned to her and instructed, "By the way, no matter what, don't leave here." Jiang Wanwan nodded and quickly ran away. Yi Exen rushed downstairs and drove straight to the internet cafe. 10 minutes later, at the entrance of the internet cafe, a temporarily closed sign hung above the internet cafe. 2 people stood at the entrance, leaning against the wall, looking very nonchalant. Seeing this, Yi Exen breathed a slight sigh of relief. People were still guarding the entrance, which meant that Qin Xiaowei probably hadn't left. He got out of the car and quickly approached the internet cafe. As soon as he walked in, the 2 people at the entrance raised their hands and said, "Hey, buddy, can't you see the sign? Temporarily closed. Go to another place." Yi Exen raised his eyebrows, and then his arms suddenly lifted. Almost instantly, the 2 felt something hit the back of their necks. Then, they slumped to the ground. From beginning to end, they didn't even see how Yi Exen made his move. Yi Exen directly entered the stairwell at the entrance. The internet cafe was located upstairs on the 2nd floor. As soon as he reached the corner of the 1st floor, he heard a voice from inside. "Did sending a message to Jiang Wanwan work? I told you. Jiang Zhenan can't handle this. Now, call Yi Exen immediately and tell him to come over." The voice belonged to Tao Dingyun. He gritted his teeth and said, "This bastard slapped me, and I even knelt down for him before. Today, if I don't kill him, I'll write my name backward. I don't have his phone number." Qin Xiaowei's voice also came down. Yi Exen breathed a slight sigh of relief. Tao Dingyun frowned, then looked to the side and said, "Uncle Lin, there's a room in the back. How about you take her in there first? After you're done, can I have a go, too?" "No rush," Zhou Yulin said lightly. "I said, I will make that kid kneel before me and let him watch with his own eyes." Thump, thump, thump. Hearing this, Yi Exen didn't hesitate and walked directly up the stairs. In the internet cafe, there were at least 30 or 40 people. Unlike the last time, there were more people this time, and most of them had weapons. Control knives, steel pipes, baseball bats. The moment Yi Exen appeared at the entrance, everyone turned their attention to him. "Yi Exen, what are you doing here?" Not far away, Qin Xiaowei was tied to a chair, bound in a rather artistic way. When she saw Yi Exen, she shouted, "Go! Get out of here! Go!" Tao Dingyun sneered. "Leave now? It's too late." While they were talking, several people quickly surrounded the stairwell. Tao Dingyun looked at Yi Exen with a smirk and said, "Tsk, I was just thinking about how to catch you. Now it's good. You delivered yourself to my door. Xin rubbed his nose and looked inside. In front of the bar counter, at a table, two people were sitting, the only two people sitting. One of them was Zhou Yulin, and the other was a middle-aged man with a frown. Obviously, this person should be Wang Jun. Beside him, a phone kept vibrating. Xin walked towards them and saw the name Jiang Jinan flashing on the screen. Your phone is ringing, Xin reminded him. Hearing Xin's words, Wang Jun was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Xin to be so calm under these circumstances. He looked at Xin and said, Old Jiang can't handle this. I'm not answering the phone. I don't want him to get involved. It's for his own good. You shouldn't have. You absolutely shouldn't have provoked Brother Lin. Is he very powerful? Xin looked at Zhou Yulin and asked. Whether I'm powerful or not is none of your business. In short, it's not something a small character like Jiang Jinan can afford to offend. Saying this, he stood up with a smile and said, Weren't you quite arrogant with me last time? Qin Xiaowei gritted her teeth and said, Let him go, and I'll sleep with you. Xin looked at Qin Xiaowei in surprise, thinking to himself, This girl is quite loyal. He delivered himself to our door, and he wants to leave? Zhou Yulin sneered, Later, when we're having fun, he'll be watching from the side. Just thinking about it is a little exciting. Tao Dengyun licked his lips and said, Uncle Lin, can I beat this bastard up first? Wang Jun looked at the calm Xin, frowned but didn't speak. Zhou Yulin nodded and said, Sure, just don't kill him. I still need him to watch the live broadcast later. Tao Dengyun licked his lips and walked towards Xin. But Xin didn't move. His eyes were slightly narrowed, looking at Zhou Yulin's wrist, where there was a tattoo. This tattoo meant nothing to the ordinary people of this world. At first glance, it was just an ordinary tattoo. It wasn't large, shaped like a lotus flower, vivid and lifelike. Piercing through the center of the lotus was a tiny dagger, barely visible to the naked eye. But Xin knew very well that this tattoo represented the mysterious organization Red Lotus. This infamous underground world assassin organization controlled many of the world's rich and powerful. This time, Red Lotus had come to Jiang City to target Jiang Jinan, but they were extremely secretive. The Night Watch had only received a tip-off and hadn't been able to track them down, instead losing 3 of their own. The only one left was killed by Xin with a single slap. Xin hadn't expected Zhou Yulin to be a member of Red Lotus. Wang Jun must have known something and therefore dared not provoke him. Indeed, Red Lotus was not someone Wang Jun or Jiang Jinan could afford to offend. This organization was a gathering place for assassins, and for these top-tier killers, dealing with an ordinary person was simply too easy. Moreover, Red Lotus also controlled many wealthy businessmen, who, when united, formed a formidable economic force. While Xin was thinking, Tao Dengyun, carrying a baseball bat, walked up to Xin, stopped and grinned. See my right cheek. It's still swollen. I did that. Xin smiled slightly, still calm and composed. Beside him, Qin Xiaowei's face had completely lost control. She shouted, Xin, run? I won't call you a coward. Just run. Tao Dengyun sneered at Xin. Good that you remember. He hefted the baseball bat, looked at Xin's hands, and said, Hey, these hands held Zhou Qianqian and slapped me. Let's break them first. With that, his expression turned ferocious, and he swung the baseball bat with all his might towards Xin's arm. At that moment, a cold glint flashed in Xin's eyes. Wang Jun and Zhou Yulin's expressions changed almost simultaneously, and they shouted, Stop! But it was too late. The moment Tao Dengyun moved, Xin threw a punch at his chest. Bang! The clothes on Tao Dengyun's back exploded at that instant. He was sent flying and landed precisely in front of Zhou Yulin and Wang Jun's coffee table. He spat out a mouthful of blood, as if it were free. What are you doing? You dare to fight back? The group yelled in an instant. Wang Jun's face changed drastically. He jumped up from his chair and rushed to Tao Dengyun. Xiaoyan, how are you? Tao Dengyun couldn't speak. His eyes were dull, his body trembling, blood continuously flowing from his mouth, and his gaze began to wince. Wang Jun's eyes flashed with coldness, and he glared at Xin. You dare to hurt my nephew? The first time, he knelt and I let him go. The second time, I slapped him. Exin touched his nose and said, "Third time's a charm." I gave him 2 chances, but he didn't know how to cherish them. You can't blame me. He looked at Wang Jun and said, "Speaking of which, I'm curious. You think you can't afford to offend this baldy, but why didn't you think you can't afford to offend me?" Wang Jun's expression was uncertain. Last time Jiang Jinan called him, he didn't explain Exin's background, only threatened him not to touch Exin. So subconsciously, he thought Exin's backer was just Jiang Jinan. And this time, the matter involved Zhou Yulin. Although he didn't want to make an enemy of Jiang Jinan, he was even more afraid to offend Zhou Yulin. So he gritted his teeth and decided to offend Jiang Jinan first and apologize to him later. Facing dozens of people, Exin was still calm. He looked at Wang Jun and said, "Since you have a good relationship with Jiang Jinan, I can let you go this once. Release the girl and compensate her. Of course, this baldy has to stay." Zhou Yulin frowned. In fact, for ordinary people, he was a capable fighter, but he could feel that he was no match for Exin. His reliance this time was on this group of people. He thought that no matter how powerful Exin was, he wouldn't dare to be arrogant when facing this group armed with weapons. But the fact was, Exin was arrogant, and now, facing such a large group, he was threatening him. If Wang Jun retreated out of fear, leaving him one-on-one with Exin, he probably wouldn't have a good outcome. Of course, if they really fought, he still had a chance if he acted in secret. After all, assassination was his specialty. Hearing Exin's words, he sneered at Wang Jun. "You better think carefully about the consequences of offending me." Wang Jun took a deep breath, looked up at Exin, and said, "I don't care what your background is, but in this Jiang city on my turf, you injured my nephew like this in front of me. You need to give me an explanation." Exin touched his nose and said, "An explanation? For example, if you don't get him to the hospital within 2 hours, he'll die." "What?" Wang Jun's expression changed dramatically. He quickly waved his hand. "You two, hurry up and get Tao Dingyun to the hospital." 2 men came over, lifted Tao Dingyun, and hurried downstairs. Exin didn't stop them, still standing there calmly, even winking at Qin Xiaowei. Qin Xiaowei was initially flustered, but when Exin knocked Tao Dingyun flying with a single punch, she was stunned. She had been practicing martial arts with her father since she was a child, but Exin's punch just now was completely beyond her understanding. After Tao Dingyun left, Wang Jun stood up, stared at Exin, and sneered. "Looks like I haven't been active for too long. People in Jiang City have forgotten about me. A brat dares to act tough in front of me. Kid, let me tell you, Jiang Jinan can't save you this time." He then said coldly, "Beat him, I don't care if he lives or dies." Bang! As his voice fell, everyone seemed to hear an explosion. Just as the group was about to move, they saw Exin suddenly move like a cannonball. The floor where he had been standing suddenly caved in. In an instant, Exin was in front of Zhou Yulin and Wang Jun. "You said it yourself, I don't care if he lives or dies." Exin's voice, like the Grim Reaper's, echoed in their ears. Clong! As the sound fell, Wang Jun felt a powerful force on his head. He had no strength to resist at all. His head slammed against the wall beside him, making a clang sound. In an instant, his head was bleeding, and he collapsed on the ground, his life or death unknown. Beside him, Zhou Yulin was trembling all over. Too terrifying. He was no match. Absolutely no match. His body trembled as he looked at Exin, his heart filled with endless regret. "You, who are you?" He looked at Exin, fine beads of sweat appearing on his bald head. Exin grinned and looked at Qin Xiaowei, who was not far away. "Be good, close your eyes." Qin Xiaowei was stunned for a moment. Then Exin's voice sounded again. "Only open them when I tell you to." She didn't know what Exin meant, but at this moment, she obediently closed her eyes. After Qin Xiaowei closed her eyes, Exin looked at Zhou Yulin and asked in a voice only they could hear, "What rank are you?" Zhou Yulin's pupils contracted, and he quickly said, "You know about us, I'm a blue rank of Red Lotus. You can't touch me, or Red Lotus won't let you go." Exin smiled at him and said, "Oh, a blue rank trash. Didn't you ask who I am? When you get to the underworld, ask a red rank trash named Isun. He knows who I am. Young master, you're..." His face changed drastically, but it was too late. Exin made his move. His hand swept across Zhou Yulin's waist, pulling out a shiny dagger. In the next instant, the dagger flashed, slitting Zhou Yulin's throat.